Welcome back.
It's been a while.
There's been so many games. It's been a minute since an episode because we left town for a little bit. So there's a lot of Leaf stuff to catch up on. Last we left off, it was the struggle bus,
It was the struggle bus.
and then the next
There's
game was
been
Calgary.
there's been a lot of
Lot. If there's
back
one,
and forth since then.
if there's something that you have to be able to cope with as a Leafs fan, it's a freaking roller coaster. Um, I thought we were the best team in the NHL following that loss spree, shall we say. It looked like we were playoff ready, and then there comes a different game. And it looks like we're back into old habits, but we'll do this game by game and get into each one here.
All right. So last we talked, it was off of the disappoint. It was a bad week. We
Mhm.
lost to Ottawa. We lost to Florida. I believe we lost to Colorado that week too.
No.
Or it was the week before they lost to Colorado.
Yeah.
They beat Utah in the shootout after blowing a 3-0 lead.
Yeah.
So they played Calgary on the Monday night. Amazon Monday Night Hockey,
Love it. Thank you, Amazon.
and they came to play.
Yeah.
They came to play. And Calgary, though not the most talented team, one of the harder teams to play against
Yeah.
in the league. And one of the rookie of the year candidates in Dustin Wolf. And we chased them out of the building here.
Like, at no point did we look like we didn't have control of that game.
Yeah.
First, second, third period,
Yeah.
every bit of it. Was that the one where we got scored on first, though?
No.
Okay.
We scored first. They tied it late in the first, and then we exploded in the second.
Um, what a response
The
to
response was there.
from looking like they didn't know what they like, that they were disinterested in playing hockey, to showing up that night. It was a bit of a wake up call, I think, probably in the dressing room. And one of the things we spoke about was like Austin Matthews needs to look his form
Yeah.
again and to look like he's good. Someone needs to take control of this team. He's doing that in
And he did
part,
that night.
but John Tavares is unbelievable.
Yeah. So the Calgary game was Matthews took over that game.
Yeah.
I believe he had 2 and 1 assist. Yeah. Um, it was kind of going into that game. It was kind of like the Leafs need to get going here.
You can't be playing
Like
this.
this is a make or break game here because Calgary's the exact type of team. They're not outstanding in terms of skill and talent. Not that they don't have any at all, but they're not near the top end of the league in that department. But they're hard to play against every single night. And that's what you're going to get in the playoffs. Whether the team is as talented as you or not, you're always going to get effort.
Once you're in, it's everyone wants it.
Yeah.
Like there's no if you had
Yeah.
San Jose somehow squeaking to the first round, they're gonna show the hell up.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that Calgary game was a good showing. The following game was the Colorado game.
They look okay.
We didn't play horribly. I wouldn't say we played particularly terrific. Wall kind of bailed us out a bit that night, and we got some good bounces that night as well. That was the Matthews throws it out front and it hits the guy, and then Lorenz gets the shorthanded goal
Shout out to
because of Kelly Sutherland's error.
Thanks, Kelly.
Kelly helps us out a bit.
The most awkward thing to watch.
Yeah,
because they show it where you get to see the puck
in slow motion. It's kind of like it looks like he dives into the puck, but like real time, it's coming at you fast. He sees it's in the air when it's coming at him, so he's like, I gotta get down. But then the puck comes down while he's diving.
And I've never been a referee, but I imagine it's a little bit like baseball players losing ball in the sun. Like the lights are bright. It's coming down at you. You probably can't fully see it 100%. You're just making your best guess.
And
the
like,
refs have been pretty good about not being in the way.
yeah, you never really see it being an issue. Like even with guys, you rim the puck around the boards hard. The linesmen seem to get out of the way most times.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's
they're doing crazy stuff.
So it's kind of like it was a little bit. It was very unfortunate for the Avs. Like
And
that's.
If I recall, was this shorthanded too?
It was shorthanded. Lawrence got a shorthanded goal.
Just sucked the air out of the building.
So that was
Was it?
It was in Toronto, so it gave energy to the building. But yeah, Wall 38 saves.
An unbelievable save
Yeah,
too. That is
against one of the most high danger teams in the league.
arguably one of the best
Yeah.
offenses in the
Yeah,
NHL.
so that was good. And then we had a back to back. We played in New York the following night. Stolars gets to start there. It was a tight game, but we came out and we got the win there. So going into Saturday night, things were looking up.
Yeah.
Some good wins against playoff teams. I would say the Rangers are.
They're not
They
the
would be.
Rangers of the beginning of the
Yeah,
season.
they would be a fringe playoff team. But like most years with this team, they've been a playoff team.
Yeah. You still have Panarin. You still have Trocheck.
You add Miller to that.
Yeah.
Shesterkin is arguably the best goalie in the NHL.
Yeah.
Maybe second best if he's not the best. So yeah, it was a good week. And the mood really changed from the week previous.
Yeah.
But Saturday night
They're playing with life.
that kind of changed. So Saturday night we traveled to Nashville.
So I was having dinner with my parents as this game was on because we were kind of celebrating my birthday with
Yeah.
my parents and then my dad the next day. And so I was kind of watching this out of the corner of my eye. I watched the first period. We didn't start dinner until the intermission. I don't know what the heck happened
I,
because from the sounds of it, they didn't return from the
I'm
first.
trying to remember what I was doing that night because I didn't watch the first period.
From talking to, so they look good in the first period.
Yeah,
They had energy.
it was
They
2-0.
did, yeah,
Yeah.
2-0. And then I think it was like the first couple seconds of the second period, Nashville scores, and it just
Yeah,
kept
Bunting
going.
scored within the first 2 minutes, and from there we looked horrible. We could not get out of our own end. This is a team who has struggled all season long, and it was ugly.
You should be beating Nashville
Yeah,
at home.
yeah.
Was it in Nashville?
It was in Nashville,
Regardless, you should be beating Nashville.
or at least not blowing a 2-0 lead and losing 5-2.
Yeah.
So that was an ugly night. And then we kind of came back the following week. It was like, okay, it was a bad night. We had the rest of the week was good. We went back home. We played Philly. Philly struggling. And kind of like Calgary the week before ran them out of the building.
Yeah.
And that was the game you were thinking of. Philly was up 1.
Right.
But
right.
we kind of, this is the night where Tavares and Nylander took over. That second line took over.
Tavares, at least they showed this last night, has been the best player in the NHL production-wise for the month of March.
Yeah. So McMahon has been kind of playing on that line, and it's kind of been working. So they've been sticking to it, and that was that line's best night for sure.
Walking through like 3-4 guys.
Yeah, Nylander just a swagger that night. He had it going.
Yeah.
And I believe he got 40 that night.
When
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And when he's believing in himself and
Yeah.
he's just got that confidence that
Yeah.
night, oh my gosh, does it look so good.
Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, maybe the National game was a blip. We'll get to what happened in Philly after that game. But I think it was more of the opposition than us being terrific. Because Thursday night, so we're on the Western swing now. So Thursday night we go into San Jose, 10:30 puck drop Eastern time.
This was brutal. I took Friday off as a vacation day, and we both stayed up and watched this.
So
at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And it was fury for the first 2 minutes.
So San Jose has a 2-goal lead. They're up 5-3 into the last minute, and then Tavares and Nylander get one each and tie the game and send it to overtime. Yeah, and it took them to the last 5 minutes of the game.
Toffoli was just undressing us in terms of like.
Yeah, Toffoli got a couple. Liljegren, or as the commentators say now, Liljegren. I don't know where the fuck that comes from.
I'm curious because he was on the Leafs for a decent amount of time,
and it was always Liljegren.
And so,
or Liljegren, or however you pronounce it.
Does it take for someone to say your name incorrectly before you're like, guys?
He had to have said something for them to have changed it that drastically.
Just maybe walking past.
Yeah.
By the way, guys, you pronounce it J.
Maybe, I don't know.
Who knows?
Who knows? Anyway, but he had a bunch. He got a lot of ice. He had a few assists. I wouldn't say that on the score sheet, Smith and Celebrini didn't do much, but they were kind of, you can see what's coming.
Yeah.
You can see what's coming. Overtime, I thought we should have won. We should have ended that game in overtime.
You had all
Plenty
the
of
momentum.
chances. You couldn't put it. You couldn't
3 on
finish the
3 is gonna
game.
favor us.
Yeah.
Generally.
Wall, not his best night. He kind of had the one where he shot it off.
Yeah.
I forget who it was, but he played the puck. It kind of waited too long and shot it off the player, and it went in. Not his best night.
It happens every once in a while, but it just sucks.
Yeah. And then we had a good start. Nylander kind of undressed Georgiev. There's another guy who nobody knows how to pronounce his name. But Smith and Celebrini come out in the shootout and show what they're all about.
Holy smokes.
And the Sharks take the 2 points. So you go into San Jose, you right, you're right. I know how talented those young guys are, but like the Sharks aren't ready yet. Like they're one of the worst teams in the NHL here. And you have to come back in the last minute to grab a point against the last place team in the league.
Now, in doing so, they maintained their first place spot going into Friday.
Yeah.
Which, okay, great. That is critical. That's really important to do. And how you're getting it done, though, 2 points means a lot more, and against one of the worst teams in the league.
Yeah. And then we come into last night, Saturday night in LA, who is a very difficult team to play against.
Good depth.
Again, not necessarily in the same mold as Calgary. I would say they have more talented players than Calgary does, but the system is based on a team game and working hard.
They've got 3 solid lines.
They have, and the depth is big time there. It's a higher level than Calgary, but it's the same idea of we're getting it done collectively as opposed to.
You've got Moore, you've got Kopitar, you've got Byfield. Like none of Kopitar, I think is like the most standout.
But at this point, he's 36, 37. He's not Doughty's up there. Like you're not. I was impressed with Kemper. I did think Kemper was kicking a little bit early.
Yeah.
Because since he left Colorado, it never really seemed to have worked out. In Washington, he didn't seem comfortable, and he seemed really comfortable. I don't watch LA a lot, so I don't. Maybe he's been like that all year, but he looked pretty comfortable. But Stolarz, again, another good night for Stolarz. We didn't look good.
No.
For most of the night, we weren't offensively. We weren't generating anything
up till the third,
and then in the third we kind of exploded here.
It's another one where, for whatever reason, like I don't know if it's just the West Coast, but it's like you've been there for a decent amount of time now.
Again, LA is a tough. They're gonna shut it down. They're not gonna give up a lot of opportunity.
Yeah,
but when you have the talent we have, you expect a little more. Tavares ends up getting 2. Matthews gets 1.
Yeah.
We touched on Matthews a little bit last week, and he needs to be the one to kind of take over because there's something offensively, there's something not there that's not clicking.
The rumors around him nursing some sort of an injury,
and we hear that every year.
Yeah,
we're hearing that every year. Matthews is at his best when he attacks the play. When it looks like he's kind of lackadaisical, it's kind of like backhand sauce here. When Matthews gets the puck in the neutral zone and attacks, that's when he's at his best. When he's off one-timers, he's not stalling, waiting to shoot. When Matthews attacks offensively, that's when he's at his best. And he did that on that shorthanded goal last night. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know why it isn't there. It needs to be there all the time.
Yeah, I don't know if it's being discouraged by Berube, but last night was the first time in a very long time where you've seen him take a cut toward the net and get a classic, like just Matthews shot for it.
I'm not saying you need to go like bulldoze the net over here, but I'm saying when he's on it, a Matthews on a 2-on-2, he's not floating to the outside, waiting. Maybe the guy goes to net. Matthews is taking it himself. He's attacking. So it was nice to see that last night, and there was a couple other instances throughout the last 2 weeks where he did do that, but then there were instances where he didn't. And I just want to see more of it. When he's doing it, that's when he's at his best, offensively.
Defensively, what did you think?
I don't think there's really any issue defensively.
Because one of the things that I don't know if it was Button who pointed it out or whatever.
Oh, don't get me started on that guy.
Someone made a comment about these blind backhand clearing passes. And this was after the San Jose game, I believe, because like they pointed it out and said this is like a bad habit because it's generating a lot of turnovers. It happened again last night,
Yeah.
and it was the first time I've kind of taken it in, and it was McCabe who did it.
Yeah.
The first one where I'm like, oh, I just saw that,
Yeah.
and it's giving away a lot of possession, and I'm not sure about the kind of defensive zone cycling, the amount of turnovers that it seems to be kind of generating, and just I know you're desperate, you're probably a little tired. It's generally on longer shifts, you want to get it out,
Yeah.
but it's just making it worse because you're just handing it over anyway, and that's what's leading to like high scoring chances again.
Yeah. At the beginning of the year, the breakout seemed to have been figured out. We kind of spoke about it. It's struggled a little bit more recently. I think, like on the third line, on the depth lines, it's an issue.
Yeah.
It was not as much of an issue in the top two lines early in the season. It is kind of every line now, but the third line, I think they thought Lawton comes in, he's going to be a center, which we'll get to. But it hasn't really panned out that way. So you're still rolling Kampf and on the fourth line and Domi on the third line, and it just doesn't. I don't want to pick on the guy too much. I know I'm not high on the guy, so but just Domi isn't really a natural center, I would say. So there's issues with the breakout on that line. But just that, I'm just using that as an example. It's every line is doing this. Every line is struggling with it. There's just something isn't clicking, just as a whole.
The breakout seems to be
It's like
defensive call.
It's like one night we're here, we show up, and it's like the opposition doesn't matter. We could be playing the best team in the league, and we show up or we don't show up. We play the worst team in the league, we show up or we don't show up. We played Philly and San Jose in the same week. We show up against Philly, we don't show up against San Jose. We play Nashville, we don't show up. But we play Colorado, one of the better teams, and we do show up. So it's just kind of like all over the place. It's like on a night to night, you need to show up every night.
Yeah.
You need to show up every night.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe it's teams have kind of watched what the Leafs have been doing and they've kind of figured it out on the breakout. I don't know, because it's not an issue every night.
No.
But when it is, we touched on it last week too. I think the goaltending being as good as it has been from the majority of the season bailed kind of papered over some cracks.
Yeah.
And it's kind of fallen back down to earth where both guys are kind of like one night they have a really good night and the next night it's not so good. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of back and forth. Whereas before it was like Wall was hurt, Stolarz ran with the job and he was great. And then Stolarz was hurt and Wall ran with the job and he was great. And then now they're both healthy and it's kind of back and forth. And it sucks because no guy has really, since Stolarz has come back, no guy has really jumped above the other so much so that you could say this guy's my starter.
I was gonna ask. Now that we're kind of April's on Tuesday,
I don't even know.
No one's.
I don't even know. I don't even know. A lot of people were saying, "Well, Stolarz played great last night, so he should play Sunday night." They're not going to play. They're not going to play him on back to back. Wall's going to play they're not going to play. I know the old guard likes goalies used to play back to back back in the day all the time. I understand that, but that's not the way things work anymore.
Taking shots from the
and like goalies today, it's a lot more physical on the body because it's so it's harder on the hips, on the knees, on the ankles. So it's before it was more stand up. Yeah, it's kind of so you're pretty much on your knees and your edges all game. Not all game, but like
doing that 2 nights
when the team is in your offensive end, you're always on your edges, and both goalies have injury history.
Yeah.
So
I have no issue with them splitting.
Yeah, you split it. I know Wall didn't have a great game Thursday night, but he was terrific the week before, right? So I'm just kind of like and they say, well, ride with Stolarz. Stolarz has had a good week. That's all well and good, but you can't play him every night. Like, okay, Stolarz played great against LA. Did he play the Philly game? Yeah, I think he did.
Stolars?
Yeah. So he had a better week than Wall because Wall played the Nashville game on last Saturday as well. So it hasn't been Wall's best week. But the week previous, Wall was terrific. And we were talking about, Wall should be getting the start because you had the Colorado New York back to back, and Wall played against Calgary, and then they gave him the start against Colorado, I believe. I think.
Yeah, we'll play Colorado.
And then they had the back to back with New York, and Stolarz got the second start, I think. Yes. So things can change quickly. You can't just, well, he's playing well. He's played well for 2 games. So somebody needs to put their stamp on the job and play well night in, night out here.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of hockey to go. And you have some tough games this week. So you go Wall tonight, and then I would imagine Stolar starts on Wednesday against the Panthers. And then after that, we kind of see you got a Saturday game against Columbus. Wall probably goes there. There's no more. There's a back to back. The following week, you're in Florida. I would imagine you probably roll Stolarz against the Panthers because it's the Panthers. He's an old team. It's a lot of games against Florida to end the season here. Yeah, I'm just. No one has really jumped off the page to say this is my job yet. They both had good nights.
Even in March.
Yeah, but they've both had very good nights, and they've both had tough nights or a tough week. Well, this hasn't been Wall's best week, but the week before, if you would have said that, you would have said Wall was probably slightly ahead.
Look what LA did against Colorado.
And then the next week, Stolarz is slightly ahead. So there's no consistency here.
Which is if like the 10th time we probably mentioned this season.
Yeah,
it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, it is. It is. Just come playoff time, it's kind of like you can't do this. Like you got to pick one. You're not going to have any back to backs.
You got to see who's riding the wave.
Yeah, it's kind of who's hot, who's not, and the problem is last year they did that and they picked the wrong goalie. So, a couple milestones for some guys this week. Nylander, or for the past 2 weeks, Nylander hits 600 career points. Tavares hits 1,100 career points. And then on the season, some milestone goal scorers here. Nylander hits 40 for the third year in a row, and he's only 8 away from 50 now. So he might get to 50 for the first time. Tavares hit 30. I believe he hit 35 actually last night. So he's on to 35. Nyes hit 25, and McMahon hit 20.
Good stuff.
So
it's time for McMahon's career too.
For McMahon, yeah. First time for McMahon. Nyes is only his second year, so he hits 25 for the first time. So some milestones there. I believe Matthews is pretty close to 30, so he should get that. I think he only needs 2 more, which seems low for him, but if you're complaining about a guy having 30 goals, then I don't know, whatever.
He's still got He's got a nuts amount of assists too.
Yeah. All right, let's talk Lawton a little bit. We have touched on it.
Got his first goal.
I think he's been better.
To me, it looks like he does have a little. He seems to be getting a little bit of chemistry going with Domi, ironically enough.
Domi and Robertson has been kind of the line, but Robertson got scratched last night, so I believe Yarncroke played with them.
Not to jump around too much, Robertson's taken so many penalties. Like a stupid number.
Yeah, well, Domi takes penalties all year.
I get it. 2 wrongs don't make a right. Because this seems out of character for Robertson, and Domi's always taking stupid penalties. And it's
like last night.
Like last night. Yeah. But Robertson, I don't like him on that line. At this point, I'm still doubling down on get rid. You need to get.
Well, he's not. You got him for the rest of the year.
I get it.
You got him. So that's how it is.
Lawton, I don't know. Like, what is he at it? Realistically,
I think there was a mistake here. Not because they added Lawton. I think because of what they expected him to be. I see Lawton not the same type of player as Domi, but in the same breath, I don't think he's a center. I think he can fill in center if you need to fill in center.
Who did he play in Philly?
He played both. He played both. And then you're playing on a team that's near the bottom of the standing, so maybe, oh, he's a center for this team, so we're going to bring him in as a center. But he kind of plays both.
Yeah.
And you bring him into this situation, and Lawton seems to be more of an aggressive on the forecheck type player. And usually you don't want your center being that guy. Usually your center is the guy who hangs back as the third forward, and the wingers are the ones that are aggressive on the forecheck.
Yeah.
So Lawton has played wing and center, and he's kind of jumped around. It seems he's found a spot on the third line with Domi and whoever the other winger ends up being, whether it's Robertson, Yarncroke, whoever. McMahon seems to have found a spot on the second line, so it's better. I think he's good as a winger. I think as a third line winger, I think that's his role. He's aggressive on the forecheck. He's physical. The scoring hasn't been there so far. It's just maybe taking him a little bit of time to bed in here. I think that comes with time.
Yeah. It will only get. I think it will only get better. You just wish the chemistry in the learning curve happened sooner. He's gonna
Yeah,
learn. It's a brand
yeah.
new system.
And you gave up a decent amount to bring him in, so it's kind of like
You're gonna ride it.
yeah. I don't think he's been as bad as people make him out to be. Like how he's been in Toronto, I don't think he has been as bad as people are saying he's been.
Never gonna be the production.
Yeah,
king.
but even like defensively, like I think he's done good things.
Honestly, and curious because you say this for some players. Is he? If you don't hear his name, he's not. He's doing his job. I feel like it's less so for centers and.
Yeah, it's more of a defenseman thing.
You should be hearing his name more.
Maybe not more, but like you don't want to hear his like you're not going to hear his name a ton.
Yeah.
Him playing like his role, but like aggressive on the forecheck, you might hear his name a little bit. But like on the score sheet, I'm not expecting anything outrageous. I'm expecting like a McMahon level on the score sheet. That's what I'm expecting.
Yeah, because it's a lot of the stuff that you don't hear on the announcers. But
Yeah.
you see,
Yeah.
Look at how he just outworked that guy
Yeah.
who won the puck.
Exactly.
We may not be
So,
a lot, but
maybe not like fully, not like a Benoit where I don't want to hear his name all night. If I don't hear Benoit's name all night, that means he did fine. He did well. He did his job, right? That's what I want. Tanev, McCabe, those type of D. Like Riley and OEL are probably the only two D where it's like I kind of want to hear their names
a little bit more.
a little bit more. And even OEL, he's on the back end of his career. He's not like at his peak, right?
If you hear his name too much,
Yeah,
too many kids.
yeah. Like if he has a good offensive night, that's great. But at this point in his career, he's still solid enough offensively, but not like what he was when he was in his prime in Arizona. Riley's probably the only one you kind of want to hear his name.
Yeah, because he's joining right.
Yeah. But the rest of the decor, I don't want. Like Carlo, I don't want to hear your name.
So
unless you're punching a guy's face in like you did last night.
What a tussle! It was a back and forth. That was a good tussle.
Yeah.
Both guys got their shots, and then they give each other the thumbs up and smiling.
I was glad to see he was like that in the box after because he does have concussion history.
Yeah, he ate some shots.
Yeah, and there was some big shots both ways. Yeah, I think he's going to be third line wing. That's unfortunate because I don't want Domi to play center either, but I think that's what it's going to be. And you just kind of have to work with what you got.
This is what it is.
Yeah.
Let him figure it out. You've still got a couple games.
Yeah.
Let him figure it out.
I don't think the fourth line is good for him. I think that's too deep into the lineup. That's not enough time. He isn't like high end talent, but he's more talented than that. Like he can bring a little bit of offense to the table. Whereas like I love Lorenz, but Lorenz plays his role. Lorenz isn't going to go score a ton of goals. Lorenz is heavy on the forecheck, physical, solid defensively. That's what he is. Yeah. Camp, you don't hear Camp's name in the score sheet. Camp's goal the other night. Yeah. Camp's goal the other night. Yeah.
What did he put on?
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. But Camp is like a speedy guy, good on draws. That's what he is. He's not putting up crazy points here. Yarncroke, he's a small guy. He works hard, but he's not putting up crazy points. That's kind of Lawton is probably not that low, maybe slightly above that, where he might put up maybe a little bit of secondary scoring. But I think that's his role here. Heavy on the forecheck, physical, and then hopefully maybe the scoring comes as time goes on. Uh, all right. Somehow we can talk about the Atlantic race a little bit here. Not much has changed since we were last on. It's still super tight between Florida, Tampa, and Toronto. None of these teams have really taken a stranglehold on it in the past 2 weeks. Uh, Florida and Tampa were hot the last time we spoke. They have cooled down a lot since then.
Yeah, Florida's cooled
Yeah,
down a good amount.
yeah.
Tampa's still trudging along,
but still not like if they were still what they were before the past 2 weeks, they would be way past everyone here. So it's the Leafs have played 73. They have 92 points. Tampa's played 73. They have 91. And Florida's played 72 and they have 91. So we're within a point here and within one game.
this just highlights every game matters.
Yeah.
Every game matters,
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. So it's kind of like I know you don't want to go into the playoffs and be all banged up, but like if you can avoid Florida or Tampa in the first round here, that would be fantastic. And that's not to say because you're going to play the first wild card if you win the Atlantic because Washington's too far up. So that's not to say it's going to be easy because it looks like it's going to be Ottawa, and that's no easy out either. But that's the least experienced of the three teams. They're a lot younger. There's a little bit of know-how still to get for Ottawa to get to.
A little bit of starstruck.
So it's still kind of like I don't get me wrong. We could easily lose to them, but that's the easier of the three.
Objectively,
yeah.
Like you'd be saying this if you were a Tampa fan,
Yeah.
Florida fan.
Exactly. Again, I'm not gonna. We're not gonna talk about the format. We talked about the format in the last episode. We think it's stupid. I think it's really stupid, but it is what it is. You gotta deal with what you gotta deal with. So somehow within all this, the Leafs are still in the race because like 2 weeks ago it looked like, oh my god, like we're falling behind here.
It looked really good.
Yeah, it was like we might get third in the division. We won't even get home ice. Where it kind of looked like for most of the season, Florida and Toronto will battle for first. Whoever doesn't get it will get home ice against Tampa in the first round. But now Tampa has caught up to everyone, so it's kind of like, oh my god, like it's a battle.
Yeah.
It's a battle. All right. So there's some signings and maybe some off-season notes, but then there's one more thing I want to talk about. I think we need to be honest about this team.
Okay.
Sitting here today, do you think this team is capable of? I'll ask. Do you think this team is capable of winning the Stanley Cup?
In the same breath of like any team making the playoffs has a shot, it feels like it would be overachieving if they were to go deep.
Okay. Do you think this team has a shot, has an opportunity, like they can make it out of the Atlantic?
Yes.
Win the first two rounds?
Yes.
You think they can?
I think they're capable.
Okay.
I think it's going to require them to be their best, but we've beaten Tampa a good amount. We have played Florida. We've got experience with them. I don't love playing Florida. That's kind of the biggest thing is like, can you make it out? Yes, but it means you're going to have to beat Florida. It's a big ask. I think Florida has a just play style advantage to playing against the Leafs. I think the Leafs can handle Tampa. I think they can handle Ottawa. The big, okay, are we truly a team that can get this done? Is how are you going to respond to Florida, especially given you're not likely to face them in the first round? But I think if they're playing their game, if every guy is going out there playing like John Tavares, skating and grinding and winning battles in the corner, and we clean up some of these stupid giveaways, because Florida will absolutely punish the shit out of you if you are giving away pucks for free, and if you're just doing it trying to get out of the zone, or if you're Mitch Marner and you're bitching about a penalty that you thought you should have gotten because you got hit. Fair enough. He took a hit to the head last night. You can't stay down for 15 seconds unless you're seriously hurt. If you're just doing it because you didn't like that, then that's one thing. But if you don't think Florida's going to be chippy and grind you down and be physical as all hell, I'm glad we brought in some of the guys. I think Carlo's good for that. I think Lawton's good for that. But you absolutely need to expect the physicality. And are the people who are scoring our goals, are they capable of rising to that level of physicality? That doesn't feel. I don't want to answer the question. I'm going to plead the fifth on that because that's going to be the determining factor in my eyes. And goaltending.
When I look around the league, look at the teams that are contenders.
Mm-hmm.
So Florida's your number one contender. They're the defending champs. They've been in the final 2 years in a row. They have 2 players that make double digits per season, right? 2.
Kachuk?
I don't think Kachuk. I think Kachuk's just under that. I think Kachuk makes 9.5. Barkov and Bobrovsky, I think the only 2. And one's a goalie, so it's kind of different. But I think Barkov's at 10.
Okay.
In and around there. The 9
13?
No. He's like 10.5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Barkov plays the right way every night.
Mm-hmm.
Kachuk plays the right way every night.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to Tampa Bay, the depth throughout the lineup, Point plays the right way every night. Hedman plays the right way every night. You have Vasilevsky. You have Sorelli and Hagel and all those deadline pickups. Kucherov is the one that maybe there's a thing there. But when you have a player like that, that's that talented, maybe you can kind of get away with it.
Paul's a playoff guy.
One. You can have one like that.
Mm-hmm.
If I go to the West, it's a gauntlet. You go to Colorado, McKinnon, McCarr. Natchez has been great since he's been there. Nelson's been good since he's been there. The whole team as a whole. You have Nichushkin. You have all these guys. You have Tays. The goaltending has been figured out. Even if you go to Winnipeg, you go to Dallas. Colorado has one player that makes over $10 million. Dallas has none. I don't think they have any. Winnipeg, I don't think they have any. Vegas, Eichel's probably close and around that range. It's probably the only one. And he plays the right way every night. Every single night he plays the right way. Edmonton's got 2.
Some just below.
Yeah, Edmonton's probably the closest to our situation. They have 2, but again, they're like so super, super crazy talented players. You can't win the way our roster is built.
So, because I see the point you're making, take the money out of it because you can't address it this year. So, you have to look at the team just by the names that are on it and just flatten the salary. Ranking the lineups against the teams that we have to go against. Your opinion is that the depth is so thin and that we're so front loaded.
You think Tampa's third line is not going to eat our third line alive? Florida's third line is going to eat our third line alive. Fourth line.
Florida makes me nervous.
Yeah.
Tampa, you hope some guys can.
I think our third line, their third line eats our third line alive.
Then your front half has to make up for that difference,
and they can.
I think they can with Tampa. I don't.
You have 4 players that make double-digit millions. 4 players.
Okay.
4 players. Listen, Tavares has had a great year.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, I'm not paying him what he's making.
Absolutely not.
I know he's had a terrific season, but he shouldn't be making $11 million as the age that he's at.
You're doing harm to the organization if he's not taking at least $3 million off that.
And more.
4, 5.
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Matthews is your center. He's your captain. He's a goal scorer. Hasn't been his best season. He hasn't played up to his salary this season, but he has in the past.
Mm-hmm.
He would be one, and he's locked in.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 other players here. And it's Marner and Nylander. If Tavares is going to be here next year, it's going to be for less money. So that's not an issue in the future. Nylander is signed long-term, and Marner is not at the moment.
Yeah.
Nylander is going to he'll make 11.5 million per year. Marner's currently at 10.9, which was his second contract. So his first after his rookie deal. So he's going to want at least probably 12.5. When I look throughout the league, I don't see any other contender sitting here with the amount of players on that money. There's nobody else that has that many players on the money in the whole league, the entire league. Nobody else. Does anyone else have 3 players that make 10 million or more? I'm not even sure about that. Right? I can't think of any.
No one comes to mind.
Nobody else. Definitely nobody else has 4. I guarantee you nobody else has 4 players. If you are making that kind of money, you're demanding that. You're sitting here and saying, I'm not negotiating mid-season. I'm demanding this much money because I think I'm worth this much money. There are no nights off. There are no nights off. That applies to every single one of these players. That applies to Matthews. There are no nights off.
Yeah.
There is no bitching out on plays. And when we talked about with Tampa, you can have one. You can have one. Kucherov is their one. Right? There's other teams throughout the league. You can have one. But that one has to produce on the score sheet. And that's not to say that these players don't produce on the score sheet, but you have 2 of them. And it's not night in and night out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're too small. You can only win with one. This roster cannot win. I've said it all year. Last year after the playoffs, my mind was made up. I don't want Marner here anymore. He's played very well during this regular season. So I've kind of sat here and I've kind of sat on the fence a little bit saying like, oh, he's played very well. Let's see what happens in the playoffs. Let's see. We're going to wait and see. Don't sign him before that.
And they haven't.
They haven't. Let's wait and see. But the more I watch this team, the route they want to go, we're changing directions here with Berube in as the coach. And the GM as well. And the GM. We're changing directions. And it's not just these players. I think it's the whole lineup. We can't win. Whether we want to play the skill way, the fast way, the physical way, hard on the forecheck and dump and chase, you want to play possession, you want to play dump and chase, it doesn't matter. This team can't win. It's proven that they can't win the possession way because they've done it for almost a decade, and it hasn't. They won 1 round.
Yeah.
And the way that if Berube wants to play his way, you cannot win with the players on this roster.
So even and take the he won't do that out of it. If Marner was like, resign me for the same exact amount of money, would you do it?
No.
So this is a fundamental. He does not fit in a Stanley Cup winning team on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I think you have to pick Marner or Nylander, and Nylander signed long term, and Marner is.
So you're basically suggesting this summer they just have to let him walk.
I would let him walk.
Okay.
People might not agree with that.
I think anyone who's going to be objective, because like
it's hard to say. It's hard to say we're thinking 90, 100-point guy and just let him walk for nothing. I understand it's hard to do, and your heart's in it because he's a local guy. I get that. But the situation is what the situation is. Nylander is signed long term. Marner isn't. And when you look at it, Nylander produces more in the playoffs than Marner does.
Nylander can take over a game, and Marner I don't think has.
You can't have 2 players on your roster that are that small, skilled guys that aren't going to be physical, that aren't going to be hard on the forecheck. You can't have 2 players like that kind of pick and choose what night they want to play.
It's a conversation of change isn't easy.
It's not.
Change isn't easy, and unfortunately, it's like breaking up with
Yeah,
someone because you formed a relationship with these
and
players.
maybe Matthews doesn't like it because he likes playing with Marner. I understand that,
Yeah,
but you got to make hard decisions.
we're not here to appease players.
It's time to win.
We're here to win Stanley Cups, and you're kind of starting to get into the thing where
It's time to win.
yeah,
You're 27. You're 28. It's time to win.
if you don't,
You're not
want to make a
22.
change, you're gonna waste a lot of these players.
Yeah.
A lot of these generational.
If you want to go this route, which I agree with, you have to if you want to win in the playoffs. This has to change.
So okay, so let's go down this because this is somewhat of an off-season talk because like the season's still going, but what do you think the probability, like the actual likelihood that because I think you're right. I think Marner's no come next season Marner's not a Maple Leaf.
I'm not saying I don't think he will be. I'm saying if you want to win, I don't think you can
And I think Tree
have
wants
this
to win.
roster.
I think Tree wants to.
Yeah.
And Tree, I think there's been no statements from the Toronto Maple Leafs organization of we want Mitch Marner to stay.
You remember last year when the playoffs ended and it was Nylander's a Toronto Maple Leaf. We want him here.
Mm-hmm.
He came out and said that right away. I've never heard that from him. Tree has they kind of said that when they were floating the stuff around with the Rantanen and maybe trying to bring Rantanen in. They're telling Marner, we want you here, but if you don't want to be here, we have a trade offer on the table. Well, do you want to waive your real move if you don't want to be here?
I think that was kind of testing the waters a little bit, and I think that the lack of communication, the
Marner's agent has a history of taking guys to free agency, or even not necessarily taking them to free agency, but waiting until after the season and then they sign on the 11th hour before free agency. The agent has a history of that, so it could be something that happens.
It could be. I want to go down the Sam Bennett route then.
Do I think it's realistically going to happen? No. But outside of him, I don't see anywhere else in free agency. That's the issue, right? It's hard now because there's not going to be a lot of high-end free agents.
And that's the thing. If this is your go time, okay, Marner walking, I don't think anyone who's an objective fan of I want a Stanley Cup, I don't just want highlights, understand where you're coming from with the unfortunately you can't have Marner on this team.
And he's not the only one. He's not the only one on this roster that I'm going to sit here and say, like, we can't win with him.
It is okay. So then what can you do? What are the moves that you can make so that next year we are better than we are this year and have a better chance of going and winning? Part of that is going to get players.
Yeah.
And you now don't have trade equity.
Yeah. So my next question was actually, who should the Leafs? So out of the players that they have that'll be free agents this summer, who should they prioritize bringing back? Who should be the first player they're knocking on that player's door and saying, "We want you back"?
I'm going to have to see who is the actual UFA.
There's 3 players. Okay. Well, one's an RFA.
Okay.
And there's 2 UFAs. It's Nyes, it's Tavares, and it's Marner. Who are you prioritizing? No. I think it's a no-brainer. No. It's Nyes. Yeah. Because Nyes is the type of player. He's already a good power forward. He's gonna be a very good power forward. Yeah. And that's what's gonna win. Yeah.
Tavares, okay, you're great. You've probably already accepted. I don't think Tavares is delusional. I know he has the tax service, but I don't think he's delusional of being like, I'm gonna get the same or marginally less. You're gonna take a haircut here, pal. Like genuinely. If you don't, then I don't think any Leafs fan is gonna be overly heartbroken. It sucks because he's had a good season, but it's like that's one where it's like the money has to be right. There is no flexibility.
I'm going to take I'm going to put a comparable out there for Tavares, right? So Tavares makes $11 million right now. He's going to go to free agency, and there's a player who was around the same age as Tavares, probably around the same talent level as Tavares in last summer's free agency. And everyone was kind of surprised he didn't stay where he was. He was the captain there. He won cups there. Not that they're similar players, but the age group is there and the talent level is similar. Okay. So it's Stamkos, okay? Yeah. I don't think Stamkos quite made 11. He didn't make that much previously, but he was high. He wasn't far off of that. And Tampa Bay let him walk. because they lowballed him like they were offering him like less than 5 a year.
Yeah.
Which is for a guy, I understand like the age and everything, but this is your captain and you've had success. Yeah, like you've had success with this guy. So they lowballed him a little bit. Now Stamkos went out in free agency and he got $8 million from Nashville.
How's that working out?
I think Tavares can sit here and look at that and say, if he wanted to, and say, if I want to maximize my earnings here, I could probably go out and say, well, look at Stamkos. My talent level is similar to his. Maybe his goal scoring is better than mine, but my overall game is way better than his.
And look what I've done for you this season.
And he could easily go out and say, well, I want that. I don't think the Leafs will get him that. I think maybe another team might be willing to do that. Like, I'm not saying specifically Nashville, but a team in that situation that they were maybe like a fringe playoff team. They're kind of in 1 year, out the next. Maybe they're kind of saying, we want to splash here to take us to the next level. It obviously hasn't worked out.
Winnipeg.
Yeah, but Winnipeg's been near that top of the standings, though.
Yeah, but I think we both, I don't know.
Yeah, we're going to get to them. We're going to get to them. Like maybe a Vancouver.
Think he's gonna have issues.
I don't think he's gonna go there. I'm just saying
That's
that like team that's like 1 year last year they were first in the Pacific and this year they might not even make the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Like a team like that. Maybe like Minnesota, like that level team.
Okay.
Here's what I would say. I would be okay. Like if you pay Tavares and Nyes the same money next year, I think that's fair. Like if you pay Tavares 6 and Nyes 6 next year, I think that's fair. I know a lot of people are sitting here and they won't agree with me. We talked about Nyes, what he would be worth earlier. Now that the cap is jumping up, it's probably a mil or two higher.
I've seen some delusional posts.
But yeah, people are like 8 to 9.
Fuck.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, like maybe in the future, but like
absolutely not 8 right now.
Right now, I'm sitting here at like 6 to 7, like what Nylander got
right now
off of his first deal.
Yeah, right now you've got a promising guy.
Yeah,
that's it.
Very good player.
Yeah,
and I think that style of play is what you need. And if Nyes is smart, he signs a 3 or 4 year deal.
Yeah,
he doesn't go 7, 8 years. He goes 3 or 4 at that number, and he proves himself. And then in the next deal, he'll be 26, 27, and he can get his big money.
If you're even better, get your bet.
Yeah. I think that will be the ideal. If they did more, like if Nyes wanted more, I would rather prioritize signing Nyes for 7 to 8 million than signing Marner for 15.
Okay.
Or signing Tavares for the same as what Nyes gets. But I'd say if Tavares takes the hit to 6 and Nyes takes the bump to 6, they just even it out. Because Nyes is on rookie deal, so he's under $1 million. Tavares is on 11. So Tavares would be going down 5, Nyes would be going up 5, give or take $500,000 or something, right?
Yeah. But your team hasn't fundamentally changed.
Yeah. I think it evens it out, but if you let Marner walk, that saves a lot of money. And a Sam Bennett. I think if you go get Sam Bennett, I think you're letting Tavares walk.
Yeah. Unless
Tavares is willing to say, I'll be the third line center.
And then it doesn't feel great because he's such a strong player. He's such a strong face-off guy.
Yeah, but the third line center still gets tons of opportunities here. And that's not to say, do you want to pay your third line center $6 million? Do
you have to pay your third line center $6 million?
This is my point. So if you go get Bennett, and let's say Bennett wants 9, and you give Bennett 9, that would mean Marner's gone. Tavares would either Tavares has to move to the wing or Tavares has to go third line center. A lot of people think Tavares should move to the wing. I don't agree with that. I think Tavares should be a center. I don't think he's a winger. He doesn't have the foot speed for that. He's good on draws. He's a center. He's a center. It could be a situation. What do we prioritize here? Now with Bennett, so let's go see what Bennett makes right now. And again, I don't think this is realistic. I don't think it's going to happen.
Okay, I've got a grand conspiracy here.
So Bennett only makes 4.43 right now. Unless that's like somebody he got when he came over. Did he come through a trade? Maybe somebody ate half the deal or something.
Seems very.
But that seems low. Let me see something there.
Okay, because then I want to float somebody.
Let me see. Yeah. 4.43. That's a steal. Obviously at the time when he signed it, it was 4 years ago, so
Okay, so go sign him.
so say he wants 8 or 9
Fine.
and he's 28.
And then you've got some money to go get wingers.
And you can go get a second line winger. Obviously, you would have to replace Marner, which you would replace the talent level, but the depth.
I say Marner walks.
Yeah.
Marner goes to Moneybags Daddy. Money goes from Kyle Dubas's bank account into Mitch Marner's.
Could you imagine how stupid would Pittsburgh be?
And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go get Raquel.
Okay.
And
You'd have to trade for him though.
that's fine. Go do it.
Send Domi back the other way.
Send Domi. We'll eat $1 million of his salary. Who knows? Whatever you have to do to get rid of the guy. Go get
Raquel's on
Raquel.
$5 million for another 3 years. So
Let Marner walk, and Marner goes to the Pittsburgh Penguins who are in rebuild anyway. He can go be a superstar. He can dance around. He can lose as many games and not care because he has boatloads of money to dry his tears.
play with Sid.
Dude, I think they need some reason for the fans to show up.
Yeah, it's just this Marner want to lose.
Who can afford? Because realistically, who's gonna pay Marner?
I don't know. That's what I'm sitting here thinking.
When you're like, okay, we can't afford this. What team can afford that for what you're gonna get?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Where does he
I don't
fit
know.
in on another
I
team
don't know.
that needs a perimeter non-physical guy?
Like I feel like if the Avs went and got him, that would be good for them. Because McKinnon is the type of star guy that's like he's a bulldozer, like he's not a bitch, right?
There's the Canada connection there.
Yeah, like you could do that, but they won't be able. But they've already gone off of Rantanen for this reason. They're not going to do the same thing with Marner.
So then it's again the question returns: who's going to pay Mitch what he thinks he's worth?
I don't know.
Because otherwise you're just coming to the same problem we have.
Florida's not going to do it. Tampa's not going to do it.
Of Mitch Marner, you need to kind of get realistic here.
Yeah.
And
Toronto's probably the most likely team to pay him.
Yeah. So
team that's like a contender, like a playoff team.
Leverage to be like Mitch, but you just said you wouldn't even resign him on the same money he's at anyway. Mitch Marner overplayed his hand by throwing out these numbers and by having his previous contracts been this.
Maybe he didn't because maybe they fall for it. But if it was me, I would. This is what I would
do. I want to get more into this once the season's over.
Yeah.
Once the Leaf season's over.
Yeah, this is an off-season talk. I just wanted to see what page everyone was on here.
Yeah.
I think Nyes is the priority. There was a Sportsnet article where it was like Nyes is your priority. Nyes is a power forward. Yes. This is what's going to succeed come playoff time. You got to give him some time to mature a bit, but
he's big. He's fast.
He sure popped off a little bit this year. So
big steps.
Yeah, big steps. So.
And I know he's playing with Matthews, but I still think you transport him elsewhere, he's still great
it doesn't
forward.
Yeah. You go sign Sam Bennett and they play on a line together. It's a mean ass line.
Oh. I'd love to see Sam Bennett in the Leafs uniform. And
I would be happy with that.
Guy.
Yeah, where's he born?
He's like north of Toronto. It's like Oak Ridge or something.
Okay, so he would probably be a Leafs fan growing up.
Yeah. Hey, take 7.8, not 8.4.
Holland Landing. Yeah, we did look this up. So it's like, it's pretty north of Toronto. Yeah. Yeah. it'll be interesting. I would imagine that Florida is prioritizing bringing him back. I don't think realistically it's going to happen, but we'll see. Elsewhere, the Leafs signed a couple NCAA free agents. They signed Union College defenseman John Prokop to a 1-year entry-level deal, which will begin next season. He'll play with the Marlies on an amateur tryout for the rest of this season.
Fine.
And they signed the number 1 ranked NCAA free agent, Dartmouth forward Luke Hames, to a 2-year entry-level deal, which will begin next season as well.
Fantastic.
So and they were talking about, I don't know if they ended up signing him. There was another college free agent that was thrown out there by Elliott last night.
Okay.
I don't know if it actually happened yet or not, but that's a possible one as well. I can't remember the guy's name. That's all I have for the Leafs. I think we're kind of on the same page here. Do we really realistically think this team can win? Now, if Marner goes out,
I will always say yes.
If Marner goes out and pops off in the playoffs and we go make the final or something, then I'll shut the fuck up. But realistically, I'm not sure that's going to happen.
You gotta wait and see.
We're looking at Florida. I don't think that their situation is as good as it has been in previous seasons.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of getting guys. The guys are like Marchand. We're going to talk about Marchand. Marchand's just getting back. He's joining a new team. Kachuk's not going to be back until the playoffs. Ekblad's not going to be back until the playoffs. You're coming in. You haven't played in a while.
It's time to see. Okay, guys.
Is Bob going to be what Bob's been in the playoffs the last 2 years?
Yeah. For the Leafs, it's a time to figure out if you've discovered a playoff gear. If you haven't, then don't expect the same Leafs that we have today.
Yeah, exactly. Things will change.
Yeah.
Well, last question I'll ask on the topic. Do you think so? If you had to say, is it more likely that Marner stays or goes? Like, put a percentage on it.
I think. I still think stays is probably as high.
I would probably go like 70-30 that he stays.
Really, that high?
Yeah. Maybe 65-35.
I was thinking close to like 40% stays.
Yeah.
I just think.
You think 40% stays, so you're 60-40. He's gone.
I think it's more likely that the case walks than resets. Okay.
I don't like that. That's what I think, but I think that's okay. Around the league, we talked about the Leafs enough. Listen, I'm glad we took a couple of days, because if we did this after the Sharks game, I would have probably fucking yelled into the microphone for an hour. So
it was also 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah. But
you were fuming.
But I'm getting a little sick to death of this team, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
It's not just Marner. The top to bottom, like everybody, night in, night out. This is Michael Jordan said this. Michael Jordan said, I have to give everything I've got every single night, because there's going to be a kid up in the stands, probably way in the back, who has never seen me play before, that might never see me play again, and I want to give that kid a show because they spent their hard-earned money to come watch me play. It's what pays my salary, so I'm going to show up.
Especially for the Toronto.
I'm going to show up.
Even those Detroit games.
Yeah.
Those Detroit games, the ticket prices go up 50% if the Leafs are in town.
Yeah. It's time you have to take pride. Obviously for the name on the front of your jersey, and this sounds a little selfish, but take some pride for the name on the back of your jersey. Be proud that your fucking last name is on that jersey. Part of this historic team. Not even just this specific team, just anywhere in the NHL. You have made it to the upper echelon of your sport, of your craft. It's difficult, very difficult to do. Take some fucking pride in it. Other people will kill for it. Get your fucking ass out there and skate your bag off every fucking night. That's the least you can do. I understand if things aren't going right, you're not going to be great every night. The puck doesn't always bounce your way. But you can get it inside yourself that you have to be there with effort every single night. Move your feet. Be physical. Hard on the forecheck. Hard on the back check. That is the bare minimum at this level. Bare minimum. And I don't see it from every player every night.
Got the tension in the room.
Yeah. So somebody who will agree with me on this point, the Philadelphia Flyers have fired head coach John Tortorella Associate head coach Bradshaw is the interim head coach.
Mhm.
There was some kind of incident that when this first happened, I texted you or you texted me, whoever it was, and it was kind of like thoughts on it. I'm not surprised that they did it. The timing seems strange.
I agree. So I'm okay with letting him go.
I believe was it Cam York? Who was the player? So there was a player that got he didn't get scratched because they didn't have enough players, but he barely played or he didn't play at all.
Oh yeah, he
In
played in the first period and that was it.
yeah, in Shaw's first game for disciplinary issues. So something happened between him and Torts that kind of led to Philly firing him. I'm trying to find what player it was.
Let me go off on this then while you're searching.
Yeah.
I think Tortorella is designed to coach a very specific set of players. And it is you are responding to very authoritative leadership. You're responding to a very specific play style that he's asking you to play. And if he doesn't like the way you're playing, you do get extreme punishments. Look at Mitchy.
Yeah.
Look at whatever happened this year with York if it was
Okay.
him. I think that Tortorella is a little bit of an old school, adage coach, and I don't know if it translates to the players of today who, frankly, the days of, we're gonna go get screamed at and then go get hammered at a bar and then show up the next day and do the same thing. I think those days are dead. I think that players don't respond as well to the embarrassment of screaming. It's okay to have discipline. It's okay to have loudmouth coaches. I'm not, Berube's one of them. He's going to let you know if he doesn't like what just happened. That's on practice, that's on games. But I think Tortorella is such an extreme version of that that I think it's, especially if you're a bad team and he's coaching a bad team, that's going to get old real quick. Real fucking quick.
I'm under Torts. Torts is kind of designed to coach teams that are maybe like a fringe playoff team, but they're vets. They're not young guys,
Mm-hmm.
which is kind of what Philly is. There's some younger players in the room, but that's kind of what Philly is. They're not a young team.
They're not a young team. They're in the process of
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
become younger.
I think the timing it is strange to me.
Why in
There's
end of
like
March?
there's like 10 games left.
Which to me points out exactly what I think you're alluding to is some critical event happened that said we can't have
Yeah.
this guy in the room.
So I think he was probably gone after the season anyway. Just looking at it.
Yep. I think players hate him.
I think there's probably a mix. I think some guys like that. I think so,
Maybe.
but there are guys I've heard guys that have talked about Torts in multiple interviews that say
Anyone on the current
I'm
team?
just not necessarily this Philadelphia team, but I'm saying they like being held accountable by coaches.
And I can get that.
Is Torts the extreme example? Yes. But is the league getting young and a lot more fragile? Yes.
It's tough to say because you have Celebrini coming in.
Well, you also have players like Mitch Marner,
Okay, that's one guy though, and that guy's been in the
Trevor
league
Zegras,
for a decent
Trevor
amount.
Zegras.
Again, like those are fringe cases. If you're gonna take a league average, has it got? I wouldn't say it's like fragile. Is it different? Yeah, because people like don't like to be screamed at. No one likes to be screamed at. Is there moments for it? Yes, but when it's every single game,
I don't think it's every
I
single
think that's
game.
going to get old real
I
quick.
think that's an exaggeration.
I think with
I think
Tortorella, it's not.
I think Torts is just because he's fiery in interviews. I think that it gets blown out of proportion. I don't think Torts is any worse than any other coach. You talk about Berube. I don't think he's any worse than that.
We're not in the room, but that's my impression of the guy.
If you sit here, okay, here you go. Here, I'm going to read the tweet. So this is Kevin Kurz. I think he's a Philadelphia and some kind of Philadelphia news reporter.
Okay.
Yeah. Told from a team source that it's fair to say something happened between Cam York and John Tortorella in Toronto that contributed to the coach's dismissal on Thursday morning. It was put to me that they Probably both cross the line.
I don't doubt that.
Because if you're suspending a guy for something he said to a coach that you fired,
Yeah.
then it must have been not great. Torts probably isn't fit to coach the modern day NHLer because it's softer. Let's be honest.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
Okay, if you're gonna do this, why didn't you do this earlier?
Fire him like mid-season.
Why didn't you do? Philly clearly at the deadline, they didn't need to say anything. The way they were at the deadline, they were not that far out of a playoff spot, and they pretty much just sold off. They were saying, "We're selling."
That's why it's like this is a critical bit.
So what direction are they going in?
Because you can go to it's the same dynamic of like management in general of player goes over the line, you discipline the player. Management goes over the line, then who's in control? The job of the coach is to be in control. That's your team, ultimately. Yes, there's captains and whatever. That's your team. That's your responsibility. It's your job to not react. If the player's gone over the line, you need to tell them to leave the room. But if you're going to fight back, then you have children fighting. It's your job to maintain control of the room and to maintain the leadership.
I don't think his interview after the Leafs game helped. He kind of said, like, I don't really know, like, I don't like coaching teams like this because, like, they haven't had success, and it's kind of like you're just middling, and they're not bad enough to get, like, a good picks, right?
Nothing wrong with saying that.
And that's kind of probably, like, I think he knew the writing was on the wall. I think he knew it was coming. But again, if you're going to do this, either you do it earlier so you can bring a guy in that can actually maybe make somewhat of an impact, or you just wait till the season ends, which is probably what they were going to do. But obviously, something happened here that it came to that.
Yeah.
I get Torts is a Stanley Cup winner. Like, I know there's hard guys out there that, like, okay, like I'll give you an example, right? Like Babcock crossed the line, right? He crossed the line. That's bullshit. But there was a time when that was deemed okay. And Babcock is a Stanley Cup champion. Babcock coached Team Canada to 2 gold medals. Right?
That doesn't justify.
I'm not justifying it. I'm just telling you there was a time where this was deemed okay.
Sure. There was a time where a lot of things are deemed okay.
Like
drinking and driving was deemed fine.
Like, okay, like you have guys like Mike Keenan, all right? Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of players out there. I don't think many players come to Babcock's defense. There's been a bunch of things like Mike Madonna not letting him play. He would have had 1,000 games or whatever, 1,500 or whatever it was. I don't remember. And like obviously like the Marner thing, like asking him to rank his teammates and asking guys to see their camera rolls, like that shit's inappropriate. Torts doesn't do that shit. If Torts did that, it would be out by now. Torts has been like this for 20 years. I think Torts holds people accountable. He might be fiery.
There's nothing wrong with holding players accountable. How you're going about holding them accountable matters a hell of a lot.
I'm never going to change your mind on Torts. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to play devil's advocate here in a sense of like, I understand that he's a hard guy, but I don't think he's like doing anything that's like outrageously horrible here.
We don't know. And it sounds like he is.
Somebody would have said something in the past 20-25. He's been an NHL coach since like
but he did
the 2000 he's been an NHL coach for 25 years.
He did something after that game.
But somebody would have said something in the last 25 years. Vinny Lecavalier and Torts didn't get along. Vinny Lecavalier would have said something by now. Torts has been a head coach in the NHL for almost 25 years. Somebody would have said something. There's players that have been long retired that would have no doubt saying, "I hate Torts. He did this to me."
Yeah, but it may not be at the level of like Keenan, or it may not be at the level of Babcock, but like you don't need to like be at that level to still be a horrible coach to have to play under. And they may not have these horrible.
You lost 7-2. If you're gonna justify losing 7-2, then I don't know what to tell you.
No, whatever this incident happened.
Yeah.
Whatever
after the Toronto game.
Yeah, whatever happened there. That alone is something to point to, and
Yeah.
we may not know what it is. We don't have to know what it is. You can have horrible stuff. There's still horrible stuff happening. I mean, sometimes you have stuff. There's something coming up from like the '80s
Yeah.
with in junior.
Yeah.
Like just because we haven't heard about it yet doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I think that the character of Torts has come across so clearly. Of if you're playing well, then that's great. But if you're not, and this is why he likes to coach these at least fringe teams because he wants to get them to the line. That may work on those fringe teams where they just need someone to really kind of like get everyone on board and we're gonna go and get them fired up. But when you're in a losing team and you're facing that level of like borderline like verbal abuse of constantly like they have nowhere else to go. The players don't have any like what are you just gonna not play? Like that's your paycheck, that's your entire reputation in the league. But if you have the guy who's responsible for whether or not you play the freaking game or not, just absolutely I guarantee you it's been hell to be coached by him the whole year. Guaranteed. Meanwhile, transfer him to the Columbus, that Columbus team that he had that fiery, infamous playoff speech for. Fantastic. They responded to that. They were doing it. That's fine. But towing that line in terms of where you are to hold accountability and to hold some sort of like motivation to get people to really embrace and bring out the best themselves, that's fine. But sometimes the team's so bad, and when like the team's just that bad, and they're not going to get any better, and the players are just not good, which I think is the case in Philly. I don't think that team is good at all.
But that should be a team that's a team. There's a reputation. They play night in, night out.
Fair enough. It's not doing them well, and so if they're playing tough day in day out,
The
I
Flyers were in a playoff spot for 75 games last year.
that's fine. That's fine. They sold at the deadline. They sold some decent players. They had Frost. They had Farabee. I can't imagine having to be connecting right now. But it's like I do think that just because like the leagues change, yeah, I don't think that that's a problem. I don't think the days of we're gonna mentally abuse guys to motivate them is a good thing
But
to
you
try
have
and
no
perpetuate.
evidence that he mentally abuses people. You have no evidence of that. You're just speculating.
Yeah, because the evidence that we have is how he speaks about his players in interviews. That alone is if that's what he's doing when cameras are on and he knows he's in front
He
of public.
speaks about his players in interviews.
Yeah,
That guy literally came out and said after the Toronto game, "That's on me."
yeah, that's fine. Numerous other instances.
If you're not doing your job, yeah.
Just because you play badly doesn't mean that you get to be absolutely screamed at.
That doesn't mean he's just because he calls them on the media. Doesn't mean he's screaming at them.
I that's my impression, and you're right. Like I'm not
You
in
don't
the room,
know.
don't
You
know.
don't know.
But to say that like, oh, these guys are just soft, I think that's ridiculous. You're an NHL hockey player. To be like suddenly they have no grit and they're just crying in the corner because someone said something nasty to them. No, when yes, I do think there's a problem with him as a coach, culture wise.
I think I don't. You said something at the beginning of your little rant. There was that he likes to coach. I don't think he likes to coach teams that are bad team. Maybe not necessarily bad, but like not successful. I'm not saying that he likes to coach those teams. I'm saying those are the teams that will respond better to him.
Sure, sure.
That's my point. I don't necessarily think he doesn't want to be on losing teams.
No, not on losing,
He
but
doesn't
like
want to be on a team that doesn't make the
he's
playoffs.
he's got a history of doing a good job of
Yeah,
coming in,
yeah,
taking a team that is kind of like still trying
yeah,
to cross that threshold and getting them to do
yeah.
that. That's fine. No problem with that. And a little bit of like seriousness of clue in of maybe you've gotten stuck in your ways and you're just kind of coasting. I have zero issue with holding accountability and doing that in a fiery way. Like sometimes that's exactly what's needed. Um, but I don't think he has any other skill set or prowess from a communication perspective. And again, all my opinion. But I don't my impression of the guys I don't see that he has many other cards other than that strategy. From him as an analyst to a coach doing interviews to, yeah, people have said they don't like playing under him.
Um, but people have said they do like playing under him.
Sure, and those guys are 50-year-old alcoholics.
You don't know that.
Name
You're just
name them.
name players that said they don't.
You're saying there's players that say they have. Fair enough. If it's all speculation, it's all speculation.
It's dependent on the individual. It's the individuals, do they respond to that, or do they not respond to that?
Sure,
There are tons of individuals who respond to that,
sure.
and yes, it's more of an old guard thing.
And are there any players on that team that have said I like that?
Nobody has said that yes or no. Nobody on this specific team has come out and said they like it or they don't like it. Nobody has said that.
The
They're
only
not going to throw them. They're not going to throw their own coach under the
the only
bus.
thing we have to point to is exactly what is being alluded to by the Philly reporter who's saying no, there was a blow up and he crossed the line as well as the other guy.
Yeah, but the player did too. So you
But
don't.
there's more ownership on the coach to maintain a level of composure, and clearly he didn't to the point where they said it's end of March and we have to fire this guy early.
I think if it was a one-off, like if it was kind of like, oh, like we're happy with him, he would this wouldn't have happened. Like he wouldn't have got fired. But
Correct.
clearly they're thinking like, we don't want to keep this guy. So
Correct. And if it was the first time and they still believed in
no,
his
I'm
coaching
not saying
style,
incidents. I'm saying they were thinking of letting him go because they don't think they're going to be successful with him as their coach. I'm not saying there was screaming incidents. I'm saying they were probably going to fire him in the offseason, and this just brought it.
so if he's a good coach, why are you firing him in the offseason?
Well, is Berube a good coach?
Uh, uh, so far, I think the system changes he's made are good.
He got fired by St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
It's a head coach in a professional sport is a job where it's made you're being hired to be fired. You're gonna get fired at some point.
Yeah, yeah.
There are very few coaches who leave a head coaching job without getting fired. Very select few in all sports. Very few. Like off the top of my head, I can think of two.
Ferguson?
Ferguson in soccer. I can think of hockey. One here is Scotty Bowman
Sure.
with Detroit. Outside of Scotty Bowman, hockey wise, I can't think of any. Uh, like if Phil Jackson can get fired by the Bulls, like anybody can get fired. All right, like
Mm-hmm.
it's a job where you're hired to be fired.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it is. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate. I am not on the side of like the torts probably is a little too hard, but I'm also on the fence that like listen, you need to grow up a little bit here for the players.
In terms of like how,
Just society as a whole is softer. Like that's how it is.
in what way? For like hockey players,
Just like sensitive. Like they're more sensitive.
and that's a bad
They
thing.
don't. Yeah, it can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing.
So you think hockey is a sensitivity problem,
No, I'm saying the new age athlete is softer than the old age athlete. I think it goes for all sports.
and that's a bad thing.
Um,
What would be like the bad aspect?
I think there's more. There needs to be more of like a mental like ability to handle things. Just because you're receiving negative feedback, a lot of people now will go in a hole instead of using that to get better.
I don't think anyone's cut off, and I don't think society or anyone of a new age player is cut off from negative feedback. It's how that
I think a lot of them are.
it's how that feedback's
I
delivered.
think a lot of them are cut off from feedback. I think a lot of them are.
Really.
Yeah.
So then, how do teams improve if they're cut off from negative
I'm
feedback?
not saying every team, but I'm saying there are certain players who are exempt from that.
Majority or minority?
Minority. I'm talking like the best of the best. Like I'm talking
So you're
like
saying the best of the
because
best.
there's players that are like extremely talented. Like oh, I can't piss him off. I can't say anything to him.
Okay.
I think you know who's the top of my list.
Yeah, but that's one guy. And,
But
and
it's not just him. I think there's more than just him.
Trevor Zegras, Mitch Marner.
No, I'm talking McDavid.
Oh, you think McDavid's cut off?
Do you think the Oilers think the Oilers say a lot of negative shit to McDavid?
Um, who knows? I mean, it's a what are you criticizing about Connor McDavid? If you're the coach,
If you're the coach, you're my leader. You're our leader. Like you need better defensively. You need to be accountable. Like
for sure.
no just dipsy doodle bullshit. That's not what wins.
And you're saying the old style of hockey, they didn't toe that line with maintaining their best players being B.
Um, like we just talked about Scotty Bowman.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Eiserman put up 140, 150 point seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And when he stopped doing that and prioritized team game and maybe put in 90 to 100 point seasons, the Wings started winning.
And what caused that shift?
Bowman said something to him.
Yeah. So there's nothing to say that like because it's like if Connor McDavid.
I think people are scared to say that to players of that high end level now. I think it's real.
Who knows?
Do we think Torts will get another job in the NHL?
Uh maybe, but I think it's a long shot.
I think he's at least getting interviews.
You think?
Yeah.
Who do you think?
Not necessarily like right this second.
It'll be an off season.
Yeah, like it might be next
Like
year.
who-
Like who knows? Like Torts,
who'd be looking for the coach?
Torts took some time off between Columbus and Philly, right? Like he
Yeah.
was on TV for a bit.
Mhm.
I I'm not saying it's gonna be like right away.
Part of it's going to be does he want to
He's
continue coaching? Given this is
72 something years old, something like that. Like he's not a young guy, so it could be a sense of like I'm gonna take a year or two off, and after that I'm gonna see if I miss it or not.
yeah.
That's what it could
That's
be.
why I think it's.
Yeah.
I tend to
Yeah.
agree with you there.
Yeah.
I think it's a longer shot because
Yeah.
even if you're taking a year to break, that puts you at 74. And then it's like, okay, you didn't have a great experience last time. Do you want to potentially
Yeah.
undertake a headache of a team that you
Yeah.
don't like?
Yeah. Like I would use the Leafs as an example of maybe it went from one extreme to another.
I wouldn't see. I don't view Burby as an extreme. I think he's
No, no,
definitely
no, no,
more.
no, no. I'm talking about Babcock to Keefe.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
You
think
went from
Keith was
too much to
the impression I got from Keith is he wanted to be their friend a little bit.
which
Like,
we're gonna get to Keefe here in a bit.
like Keith didn't yell at anybody on the bench
Yeah,
ever,
yeah,
and it's like you can't have that either.
yeah. I'm not saying yelling. Like you don't have to yell at people, but you have to hold people accountable.
And I have no issue with that.
Yeah,
I have zero.
that's
issue
what I'm
with
saying.
holding people accountable.
Obviously, Torts is a little over the top. I'm not denying that. I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here and saying maybe he was successful in the past. Like he was successful in Tampa. Not so much in Vancouver. The Rangers had a decent amount of success under him. They had some good runs. They never won, but they were always in the mix.
Yeah,
Columbus was way better under Torts than they were previously.
Columbus is kind of the
Yeah.
stand-up one because I would go and Don Cherry wasn't a hell of a coach. Frankly, Don Cherry, he had some of the best players to ever play the game. Yeah, he's gonna win some stuff. That doesn't mean the coach is good at all. But I think with Torts, you can point to that Columbus team
Yeah.
and like that's a very good example of he took a team that was underperforming and made them a very good
So like
team.
he has positive things
Yes. Yes.
to his coaching abilities
Yes.
that
He knows the game
he
of
can be a
hockey.
successful NHL coach.
Yes.
I'm not saying he's maybe he doesn't go over a little bit sometimes. And listen,
You're a
the league is
72-year-old man.
more fun when Torts is in the league. It's
His
way more
interviews
fun.
are incredible.
It's way more fun.
I don't have any respect for a 72-year-old man who's crossing lines with some kid, frankly. Because like I do view 20-year-olds, you're still kids to a degree until you're in your like late 20s. You're 22.
I don't think Cam
you're
York is a
I
kid.
don't know how old Cam York
I don't think Cam York's a kid.
But it's like you do have kids on that team. And so it's like, yeah, I think that like it'd be an easy environment to not want to show up, not want to play under that. I'm not discrediting towards his success. He's had success. He's made it work. He's got instances to point to of like, what are you talking about? Some teams really respond well to that. No issue with that.
Yeah, and there's going to be guys who don't, and I think that this goes for every coach.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be guys who respond to it and guys who don't, and there might be guys who say, "I like this coach, I like him as a person," but they didn't necessarily maybe You take a guy that's a softer coach, and you'll like the guy because he's going, but he doesn't bring out the best in you, so you're not successful.
Yeah.
So you might like him as a human, but he didn't bring out the best in you as a coach.
Yeah, I mean, point out Tavares under Keith.
Yeah,
Tavares
yeah,
didn't look good under Keith.
yeah. It was well. It's because the style of play you want to play. I don't think Tavares. It's a problem with like possession game, but it's dipsy doodle. Everything's to the outside. Berube wants you to get inside. He wants you to be heavy on the forecheck. He wants the intangible things that Tavares brings.
Yeah. I do think there's a bit of an element of if you have a play style you want to play as a coach and it's not working with the guys on your team,
Yeah,
you have to adapt.
yeah,
Keith couldn't adapt. They weren't
yeah.
getting any playoff success. They tried it for how many years?
Yeah.
It didn't work.
It's difficult to change the way you want to do
Yeah.
things.
Because you have this
Yeah,
idea that this
this is
will
gonna
work.
work. Yeah,
And I think there's an
yeah,
element of you do have to have
yeah,
faith in that
yeah,
of no, this is the best. I know it's the best.
yeah.
I
Because if you go in and say I want to, and the team hires you because you said you want to do things this way, and then you're wishy washy with it, well, what are they gonna think, right?
yeah, because
Yeah,
you do need a team
yeah.
identity and you need to commit to the team identity.
Sometimes you have to not maybe on a certain night you have to do things differently. One night here and there you have to do things differently.
Yeah.
Or like short term, if you're hired mid season, you kind of just have to ride the wave until the end of the year, and then you could because you don't have a lot of practice time
No.
during the season.
No.
It's hard to implement things during the
Morning
season.
skates.
Yeah, like there's a lot of back to backs. You're usually playing, or like you only have one night in between, and it's a travel night. It's a travel day. Like you don't have a ton to work with.
Yeah.
It's more of a like, oh, we're going to implement this in training camp, and then throughout the season we'll still work on things. But
Here's 4 or 5 weeks.
yeah,
to commit to it.
exactly. We can actually work on it. We got long-winded there. We got a lot more to talk about here, so let's get to it.
Sure.
Your favorite player. Washington extends defenseman Jacob Chikrin to an 8-year, $72 million deal. It comes out to $9 million a year. With the cap going up, but it does seem a little high.
Yeah.
For a player that has had troubles in the past.
I want to know if you've seen his latest trend.
Chikrin's latest trend, is it the one with Ovi? They're like yelling shit before the game or something?
Not the bands that make your dance.
Yeah, no.
It is he no longer has light bulbs in his house.
Okay.
So this was a post I saw where he is exclusively lighting his home with beeswax candles.
Interesting.
He refuses to have light bulbs.
Okay.
He sold his Tesla because he didn't like sitting on a battery.
Okay.
Chikrin is a bit of a Neanderthal.
Okay, well, I agree with the selling the Tesla part.
I agree with selling the Tesla part. The refusal to use light bulbs, a little bit more.
It's a little out there.
Interesting.
It's a little out there.
It's getting into Kyrie Irving territory.
Whatever works.
But he's a hell of a
There's a lot of guys. Yeah.
I just thought it was funny.
Yeah.
So he's running on beeswax candles.
Hey, if it works, this is his best season, so it must be working. Something's working here.
There was a link to another one where he's eating watermelon.
Yeah.
It's the most fun thing to see this guy eat watermelon.
Objectively here,
overpaid.
The best defensemen in the league are making what he's making.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like it's a little.
It's a little.
Listen, he's been great this year.
He's had a great year.
But I need to see a little more before I'm willing to sit here and say he's worth that much money.
Yeah, I love the choo-choo train. This is a lot of money. I don't know if this
maybe 7 to 8. I could stomach a little better.
7 and change.
Yeah. This seems a little high.
Yeah.
But he could prove us wrong.
He's young.
He's still young enough.
This might look really good in a couple of years.
Yeah. From a player you love to a player you hate, Pat Maroon has announced he will retire at season's end.
Fine. Go have fun.
3-time Stanley Cup winner. I know Jack doesn't like him. But just a glue guy in the room.
Seems like a bit of a ditz. I could be wrong.
What does that matter? Not everyone's going to be intelligent, all right?
No, but like to be stupid.
I'm an idiot.
No, you're fine. You're informed. You know, you're not a dick.
How do you know Maroon's a dick?
His last name.
I'm a dick to you all the time. What do you mean?
Yeah, like it's fine. With him, it's just like, oh, whatever.
But it was a nice touch. They did it when they were playing in St. Louis with Darren Pang, who was part of the St. Louis broadcast team when Maroon was there.
You know, he's very lucky that he got dragged onto some teams that decided to win Stanley Cup.
And this is a guy that almost got kicked out of the league. So, not the league, but kicked off his team.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He pretty much said, like, you're goofing around too much. And he figured it out. And he carved himself a role in the NHL.
Carved a role. He's gone farther in the NHL, done more in the NHL than I could ever hope and dream. Congratulations, sir. Enjoy your retirement.
He's got more cups than anybody on the Leafs roster.
Yeah.
Columbus. Columbus is struggling a little bit here.
Yeah.
They activate Sean Monahan and Eric Goodbranson off IR. It's kind of they need the help here.
You need money.
They're still in the mix.
It doesn't feel good.
But it doesn't feel great.
Monahan needs to pick up right where he left off.
Yeah, and that's going to be tough coming off an injury that long. They're only 2 points out, and they have 2 games in hand on New York, but just the way they've been playing hasn't been terrific.
Yeah.
The Russians have slowed down big time. So previously they were on a 6-game losing streak. They won a couple in a shootout this past week to break that, but it's looking doom and gloom a little bit in Columbus.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. To Winnipeg, Gabe Vilardi was announced. He's out week to week. Nothing really much else to add there. That's a solid player on one of the better teams.
Yeah.
Hopefully he's good to go playoff time. Let's go to Carolina.
Okay.
Carolina's on a bit of a heater here.
Ooh.
They slowed down a little bit, I will say. But they previously, before that, in the month of March, so they lost to Edmonton on the first day of March. After that, they reeled off 8 straight wins. They got blown out of the water by LA to end that, and then they've kind of bounced back and forth between wins and losses since then. But we talked about them a little bit on last week. They're not in as bad of a situation as people are making out to be. I know all the rant and drama, but this is a team that still plays the right way, and they're going to be very difficult to play against come playoff time.
Yeah.
It's still going to be the same issues. Can the goalie stay healthy? And can they score enough to win in the playoffs? We'll see. But coming in, if you're in that kind of momentum coming in the playoffs, that's all you can ask for. And they really don't have much to play for. They're too far back of Washington to get first, and they're too far ahead of New Jersey to fall. So they're kind of stuck in that second spot, and they know where they're going to be, and they're still playing this well. Usually it's kind of like we don't really have much to play for. Let's take it easy.
Yeah.
All of what the Leafs did last year. But they're on a heater here. Speaking of Carolina, there is a report out there that if Marner does test free agency, Carolina will be looking at him. Because we've discussed it a little bit. They tried to maybe toss in a Rantanen deal for Marner.
Even the Rantanen shows that they're willing to spend money.
Yeah. More so than they usually are.
Yeah.
So maybe that's it. We're talking about teams that can afford it. That's a good team.
Yeah.
That's a team they don't like. Aho makes 9.5. They don't, and nobody else makes anywhere close to that.
And to point out Rod, I think Rod's one of the best coaches in the league. I think he's a guy who's doing a better Tortorella.
Yeah.
Like I can't. You think there's not accountability?
Oh, there's accountability in that room.
There's accountability.
Yeah. But there's no superstars on that team.
There's no superstars. Yeah. But there's buy-in. Yeah. There's buy-in from the team. They're like, this is what we're gonna do. This is who we are. I don't know how Mitch does under that system. If there's interest, fantastic. Like,
yeah, I'm interested to see because I think in the actual like play style it might work, but in the terms of like the accountability, I'm not sure.
Yeah,
like the on ice stuff because Marner has killed penalties for years now.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily think he's unbelievable at it like a lot of people do. And like he is quick enough that he can play that like man on man style. Like he can skate, he can move. Mm-hmm. I think he's capable of doing it. And maybe you add a little bit more scoring touch onto your team. Maybe not specifically him, but he'll facilitate more scoring.
Yeah.
But I'm not entirely sure on the whole dynamic. But I think it could be if he buys in.
If he buys in, he's willing to evolve as a player.
But Carolina's going to have to pay him
That's the thing. Are you willing to spend a
and they
truckload
yeah
on them?
yeah, which
Because
it's
you're
they
gonna
were
want.
willing to spend it on Rantanen, so
But Rantanen, I think, is a far better, more well-rounded.
yeah, Marner or Rantanen has had playoff success and has a cup, so he's proven that he can do it. But I think Marner fits the system better than Rantanen does.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. So that could be a team that maybe in the Marner sweepstakes.
The much anticipated,
Yeah.
highly speculated
Yeah.
Marner sweepstakes.
Speaking of Carolina, and speaking of Rantanen made his return to Colorado a couple weeks ago. I believe it was
Oh, I
on a
didn't see
Sunday,
this.
and what a game! A
Really?
fantastic game. I'm
Who
gonna
won?
find it here.
Who won?
I believe the Avs ended up winning in overtime. Let me
How
find
did
it.
he do?
The Avs won in overtime. The Avs had a 3-1 lead, and the Stars came back in the third and forced overtime, and then Makar pretty quickly in overtime finished it. Rantanen had an assist that night on the first goal,
Okay.
and it was pretty back and forth. It was fun to watch. It was a good game. I didn't watch the whole game, but I saw the back half. So the end of the second, most of the third, I missed a little bit, and then overtime. It was a great game, and it's just going to be a great matchup because it's looking more and more like those two are going to play each other in the first round. Although Dallas has closed the gap on Winnipeg a little bit. It's only 4 points now, 9 games to go.
Mhm.
So we'll see what happens there. Winnipeg better hope, because if that happens and Winnipeg's in the exact situation as last year, home ice against the Avs didn't work out great last year.
Yeah, you're still getting
Yeah.
kicked, I think.
And sticking with the Avs, we talked about their loss to the Leafs. Um, the puck luck wasn't there that night. Well, the following night they played Ottawa, and the puck luck was most certainly there. They scored 4 in the first period, and they ended up winning 5-1. So the Avs are still coming too. They were a little too far back of Dallas and Winnipeg based on the early season stuff, so they're not going to catch them. But they seem pretty comfortably ahead of Minnesota now. That they're going to
I
get
don't.
in the top 3 in the Central,
Yeah,
and
I don't think it matters who they face.
yeah,
I think they're gonna go on a deep
they're going to get third, and they're gonna play either Dallas or Winnipeg. That's what's going to happen. Which sucks because one of Dallas or Colorado or Winnipeg out in the first round. That sucks, but that's the way the format is. Anything to add on the Avs?
No,
Or,
I'm scared of the Avs.
yeah, definitely. Nashville.
Oh God.
We're gonna talk about a couple coaches here calling people out.
Yeah.
We talk about Torts.
This is a team. You know what? Go put Torts in Nashville.
There you go.
I'm okay with that. That's a team that needs that.
So Brunette came out in the media and pretty much called out the team, and
Every
then he kind of,
single person.
but then he kind of walked back. He's like, "Yeah, it's not the depth guys." He kind of walked it back a bit.
Fine.
He's calling out the big guns here.
Forsberg's been okay. That's it.
Yeah,
Marchessault's done shit all.
Stamkos.
Stamkos has done shit all.
Yeah, I think we've talked about it. I think they've overplayed their hand a little bit. They just saw the names, but they don't have the players around
I got
those
excited
players.
about it.
Well, we
It's
know,
not working.
and I said exactly.
it.
I didn't think they were going to be this bad.
You dick.
They were not. I didn't think they were going to be this bad. I thought they would still make the playoffs at least
This is horrible.
because they were still a playoff team last year.
Yeah.
So and they didn't really lose too much.
Not really.
So it was kind of like, okay, like I don't think they're gonna win the division like a lot of people are saying, but like they're still a playoff team, and this adds a little bit of scoring to the lineup. I didn't think it would be like crazy ads because those players aren't. They're kind of just like they score, but they don't facilitate the play by themselves.
It's imploding. It's just the biggest implosion that I think we may have seen from a team that's done like large volume of acquisitions.
But they didn't sell off at the deadline. So I got to imagine that the conversation was that Trotz talked to the top of the lineup players and said, "Are you still bought in? If you're not bought in, I want to know now so we can deal you now." And they didn't deal any of those guys.
I don't think they did. They weren't active at all.
No,
from what I recall.
no. So it seems like they're still we're going to see what happens next year. And then if it doesn't work out, maybe you add some few additions, plug and play a bit. But it's an older team,
Very old team.
not really many guys that are going to facilitate play on their own. So we'll see what happens there. The other coach calling people out, this one was actually even more interesting, was in New Jersey. And we just talked about Sheldon Keefe a little bit. The Devils are getting even further off the rails here.
Catastrophic.
It's not looking good, and it could be a very early playoff exit for them. They did beat Minnesota last night. Heishier hat trick. Basically, they asked Kovacevic in the room a question, and he kind of said, like, yeah, we just kind of got to start playing playoff style hockey here. Like, we need to gear up. We need to be ready, kind of along those lines. And then they were talking to Keefe in the media room, because Kovacevic was in the dressing room and then Keefe was in the media room. And Keefe obviously wasn't happy. I think they lost pretty badly that night. And they said like, oh, like the last, like, oh, like Kovacevic said this in the dressing room, and Keefe pretty much responded with, oh, Kovacevic just needs to worry about playing good hockey himself. Basically implying that Kovacevic has been dog shit. And then not only did he just say that, he literally said it and immediately walked out.
It was kind of, what was the actual phrasing? It was something like Kovacevic was playing a lot better.
He needs to worry about his own game or something like that. Like, yeah, it was. And Keefe isn't usually like that.
This may be Keith evolving and being like, I can't be.
Yeah.
There is a place.
He got called out for that in Toronto, so he's gonna.
There's a place that you do have to play the hard ass.
Yeah, sometimes. I do think that Keefe was harder on the Toronto players than what people make it out to be.
Probably, yeah.
But I think there was just like maybe need a little more accountability there.
Torts probably wasn't as much of an asshole as I think he was.
Yeah.
But that's just my impression.
Yeah. That's kind of what Torts lets everyone believe.
Maybe he's got the biggest heart. Maybe he really does.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far, but yeah. New Jersey
it's
is
a disaster.
Yeah, it's not.
It feels
and to call out like he's been one of their better players this year.
Yeah, Meyer bounced back. It sucks because it's like
hasn't been a team who's had as much bad luck as New Jersey has with injuries in the past 2 years either.
Like I know Hughes is out.
Hamilton's out. Luke Hughes has really stepped out since Hamilton's been out, though.
Yeah.
They have been a little bit better, but they're still not. On playoff time, like Carolina.
It just feels like such a fall.
Yeah.
Like such a catastrophic fall from a team that at least was going to be in the mix.
We talked about maybe somebody catching them. The closest team right now is the Rangers, and it's 8 points. So I don't think anybody catches them for third in the division. I think they're going to play Carolina in the first round. And I think it could be quick. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, since we always talk about him, we have to talk about him again.
Phil Kessel.
No. Sidney Crosby.
Oh, God.
Sidney Crosby has passed Wayne Gretzky for the 4th most points of all time with one franchise.
Nice.
He also passes Gretzky for the most point per game seasons of all time with 20.
There's nothing to say. Like, of course he did. That's it.
36, 37 on a dog shit team, and he's still getting it done.
I love it.
I just want to see Crosby in the playoffs.
Well, I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. Just play with Team Canada, I guess, and that'll be his big games for the rest of his career. Just a freak.
Yeah.
Just a freak.
The consistency.
I don't think anybody ever thought that Gretzky, just like Ovechkin breaking the goal scoring record, which is going to come soon, I don't think anybody expected this record to be broken either.
No. The consistency.
19 seasons Gretzky had point per game, and we're talking a guy who's probably had multiple 2-point per game seasons. Yeah. Like a lot, actually. And Crosby, 20 years in an era that's a lot less scoring.
Yeah. And hyper competitive.
Yeah. So, and a lot more teams.
Goaltending's harder.
Goaltending's better. He is one of the greats.
Yeah.
One of the greats. We touched on him a little bit when we were talking about the Leafs. Kucherov, very low key. Another 100-point season for Nikita Kucherov.
How many assists? So curious.
He had like 140 last year, so obviously
It's just nuts.
But like, still getting it done. Nobody really talks about him.
Yeah.
76 assists. So he's now at 109 points. 33 goals, 76 assists in 69 games.
Like, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. So
Cooch
still getting it done. More milestones. Lane Hutson is only the 5th defenseman ever to have 50 assists in his rookie season. And he's the first to do it in almost 40 years.
It's so good.
The Calder race is fun this year.
Yeah.
The Calder race, and you feel bad for Michkov because he's had a good year, but he's not even in the top 3.
No.
Wolf, Hudson, and Celebrini.
Like, wow.
And if I'm sitting here right now, Celebrini might be the 3rd favorite. Because if Calgary makes the playoffs,
do you give it to Wolf at that point?
Wolf has to be in here.
Is it harder as a goalie? Do you think?
Yeah, I think so.
Because there's just so much consequence.
Because there's just like, usually as a rookie goalie, you're not playing this many games. You're not the guy.
Yeah.
And he is the guy. He's played 45 games, 24, 15, and 6 record. 24, 15, and 9 record. 2.67 GAA, 909 save percentage. Do I have shutouts here? 3 shutouts. 24, 15, and 6, and 3 shutouts.
And Lane's at 40 assists.
And Lane's at 50 assists. And he's the first rookie defenseman to do that in almost 40 years. And only the 5th ever. And is the 3rd highest scorer on his team.
Is he really?
Like points. Not goals, but points.
Sorry, when you said scorer, I was like, oh.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
Suzuki and Caulfield.
He has what, like 10 goals?
5 goals. Not a lot of goals, but
still.
51 assists as a rookie. You're the 3rd leading scorer, and like, yeah, Montreal isn't like top of the standings, but like they're very in the mix for a playoff spot right now.
Yeah. Great addition.
So what a rookie season for Lane Hutson. And then the last one, well, I guess it's not the last one, but Ryan McDonough plays in his 1000th NHL game. Steady NHL D man, very good defenseman. Very important to Tampa over the past few years. Good for him. We go to Edmonton. The Carney curse. Mark Carney came out, new Prime Minister of Canada, came out for a morning skate. And then that night, McDavid and Draisaitl both got injured. And so everyone's all pissed off about that.
Alberta already was going to hit him anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Carney actually, I don't think we mentioned it on here, was actually a NCAA goalie for Harvard. He was the 3rd goalie. He only played in 1 game. Anyway, Draisaitl returned last night and scored his 50th goal of the season. So, MVP race.
Is McDavid day-to-day?
I don't really know. They did say when they were out that Draisaitl will be back first.
Okay.
And he returns. I think it's pretty much locked in that it's either Draisaitl or McKinnon will get MVP. Yeah. Draisaitl now has 104 points. So he actually has less than Kucherov now. Not really much mention of Kucherov in that race, right?
You're right. Like, people just don't generally know Kucherov.
Like, Kucherov was the leading scorer last year, and McKinnon got MVP. McKinnon has the same amount of points as Kuch right now. Obviously, those guys are probably all-around game, bring more than Kucherov, but the last one that was kind of mentioned, it's mentioned a lot, is Werenski in the Hart race.
Yeah.
I mean, 72 points as a defenseman. It's like a very good season.
Did he slow down at all?
A little bit. I probably wouldn't put him in my top 3 for MVP. I'd put him in top 5.
Okay.
And he very easily probably should win the Norris.
Yeah.
After Quinn Hughes has missed the time that he's missed.
Yeah. I think it's tough to keep up with just given the time.
Maybe people are just so used to Makar being a freak because Makar doesn't have 84 points, so maybe Makar wins it. But
we'll see.
Makar probably has a better team to play with than what Werenski in terms of talent.
1,000,000,000%.
Yeah, so Columbus has good players, but don't get me wrong. But Werenski has kind of been like
line mates.
Werenski has kind of like led the way for Columbus this year. So it's probably down to Makar and Werenski. Hughes was probably the favorite before he got hurt. Yeah. But for MVP, I think it's either McKinnon or Draisaitl at this point. Good news for the Canucks: Thatcher Demko returns for the second time this season. They lost in a shootout to Columbus 7-6 on Friday. High scoring game. Lankinen has kind of slowed down a little bit, so they kind of needed Demko back. I'm just looking at Vancouver's stats right now, and this is pretty ridiculous. But just to get off topic for 1 second, Quinn Hughes has been hurt for how long now? Like a month?
Yeah.
And he's still their leading scorer, and he's a defenseman. He's got 70 points. And the next closest guy is still 24 points off. So, Vancouver, what the fuck are we doing here? Oh, yeah, but Demko returns. It's just good to see Demko. Like, you feel bad for the guy. He's got so many injuries.
Just so many bad breaks.
So unlucky with injuries.
And then you've got Lankinen, who has been so good.
Yeah. He's kind of fallen back a bit, Lankinen, so it's kind of a good time. Florida. Brad Marchand has made his Florida Panthers debut. I believe it was Friday night.
Shootout assist, I believe.
Friday night. They won 2-1 in overtime.
Yeah.
They are playing right now, actually, against the Habs. They are down 2-1. Marchand, let's find it. Yep, assist on the winning overtime goal to, guess who? Sam Bennett. Florida has kind of been hit and miss lately.
Yeah.
Everyone's kind of on Toronto, but Florida and Tampa have kind of been back and forth, wins losses. So it's kind of all three teams no one really wants to grab hold of it for top in the Atlantic at the moment. It's coming down to the wire. Yeah. Okay. We always got to talk about the wild card chase here. The wild card chase updates. We can start in the East.
Okay.
Ottawa is pretty comfortably the first wild card at this point. They're 6 points up on the Rangers with 2 games in hand.
How's Dylan Cousins doing?
Solid. I think he's putting up a decent amount of points. He's kind of betting in well, and Ottawa's playing good hockey. So
good for him.
It seems to not be too much of an issue there. They had a big game against the Habs a couple weeks ago, and the Habs actually won the game. But since then, they've kind of gotten back on track. So Ottawa looks like Ottawa will play whoever wins the Atlantic.
Okay.
In the playoffs, it's pretty comfortable there. For the second wild card, it's not as clear. We spoke on Columbus a little bit. They've fallen off. The Islanders have made a big push.
Yeah.
But then they've kind of fallen back a bit.
The Islanders,
they've actually lost 4 in a row now. But before that, they had won a bunch.
They were on a surge.
They're kind of like, looking at it, it's like they win 3 in a row, lose 3 in a row, win 3 in a row, lose 3 in a row. They're kind of like back and forth.
Yeah.
So they actually fallen behind Columbus and Montreal and New York now, but they're only 3 points back. So it's not like they're far out here.
That's exciting.
Yeah. Columbus we spoke on. They struggled a bit. Hopefully the injury returns can help them make a run. Detroit, there isn't really much there. They're kind of meh at this point. I don't think they're getting in. After that, they had a good mid-season stretch, but it's kind of fallen back down to mediocre territory, win-loss. At the moment, the most likely, now Columbus is tied with Montreal, so they're still in the mix here. But based on recent play, The Habs and the Rangers seem to be the two in the mix. Now the Habs have lost a couple. Oh wow, they've now lost 5 in a row. Montreal.
Are they really?
Previously, they were on a good run, but then they lost the Islanders in overtime, lost to Colorado in shootout, got pumped by St. Louis. High scoring affair, lost to Philly, and then they lost to Carolina.
Although St. Louis is on like a 9-game winning.
9. St. Louis is buzzing. Yeah, we'll get to the West. So they were actually in that last wild card spot for about a week because they were playing well. They had that win against Ottawa.
Do you think they can make it?
I think they can. I think they can. I would say, looking at right now, the Rangers are in the spot. The Rangers have played 74 games. Montreal and Columbus have only played 72, and the Islanders have only played 72.
Part of it's just gonna be what's the rest of your schedule?
Yeah,
like?
part of that could be a thing. So speaking of that, the Rangers are in the spot right now, but they've played 2 more games, and they're only up by 2.
Okay.
So it's going to come down to the wire. It could be the last game of the season
Very
here.
good opportunity.
So the Rangers will have 8 games to play. Montreal, Columbus, and the Islanders have 10. Detroit has 9.
And some Montreal playoff hockey in that building?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be fun. If we go to the West, St. Louis is buzzing. They have now won 9 in a row. And they have taken a chokehold on that second wildcard spot. St. Louis is tied with Minnesota right now.
Go back to November, December.
Yeah. St. Louis is tied on points with Minnesota. They played one more game. They're tied on points with Minnesota right now. Minnesota was one of the high-end teams in the league at the first half of the year. I think it's probably, it's going to be too steep to catch Colorado for the Central, but they could actually, whether this is good or bad, I don't know if Winnipeg's going to win the conference.
Yeah.
Most likely. Dallas could catch them, but most likely Winnipeg wins the conference. So do you want to get the first wild card? Then you would have to play Vegas. Would you prefer to play Vegas or Winnipeg in the first round? I'd probably prefer to play Winnipeg.
Yeah. Vegas is too proven.
Yeah. But Winnipeg, based on this season, is the better team. So we'll see. But they could end up getting the crossover into the Pacific instead of... So, yes, Winnipeg's probably tougher than Winnipeg, or Vegas will be tougher than Winnipeg, but the Pacific as a whole is probably easier.
Yeah.
Than the Central.
Yeah.
So that could be a consideration here, battling. Because we're looking at it now, St. Louis is on 87 points, St. Louis and Minnesota are on 87 points, Vancouver's on 81, Calgary's on 80, Utah's on 76. Utah's done. Utah has struggled this week very much. They're getting run out of the building a couple of times. They lost 8-0 to Tampa. They lost 5-1 to the Wings. Last week they lost 7-1 to the Oilers.
8-0.
They lost in overtime to Florida. Friday night they got Chicago tonight, so that could be a comeback game there. But it's looking pretty safe now. St. Louis has played 2 more than Vancouver and 3 more than Calgary, but
still,
it's looking pretty safe because I don't think Vancouver and Calgary will both all win all those games in hand, right? They're not playing good enough hockey right now that I would think that. So it's looking like St. Louis will be the last or even the first wild card, but they'll win that race.
That's fun.
The West is looking more set in stone. In terms of seeding, we touched on the Central a bit already. Vegas is comfortably first in the Pacific. LA and Edmonton are battling it out for the home ice. That looks like they're going to play each other. Well, it is. They're 8 points up on the next team in the Pacific. So it'll be another 4th year in a row, LA, Edmonton in the first round. But this time, LA might have home ice, which would be the first time, I believe. We talked about the Atlantic. We talked about the Metro a bit. Nothing really changed there. We were looking at it last week. We realistically could have had 6 Canadian teams make the playoffs this year.
Yeah, it was. There was potential for it.
You're pretty much locked in. Winnipeg, Edmonton, and Toronto are in. Ottawa at this point is pretty safe.
Seems like
so that's 4. And then you would have Montreal's in a battle, and then Calgary and Vancouver. It would only be 1. It can't be both.
Yeah.
but they've both kind of fallen back of St. Louis too far. So it's looking like 4 for sure. Because if Ottawa were to fall off that bad, Montreal would probably be one of the teams that would pass them.
Yeah.
So I think you're guaranteed 4, possibly 5 if the Habs can get in.
Love it. Love to see it.
Yeah, would have been great to see all 7. That would have been fun.
That would have been nuts.
That would have been fun, but realistically, it was looking like 6 was possible.
Yeah.
With one of Vancouver or Calgary getting in the last wildcard in the West, and then Montreal getting in the last in the East.
Vancouver falling off hurts.
Vancouver and Calgary. It didn't work out. When I look at Vancouver's roster, it's interesting because last year they were one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at their roster and I'm like, how is that possible?
Demko.
Hughes, Pedersen had a great year until he signed that contract. Miller had a great year. But it's just
very
gone off the rails.
Yeah.
I think Tocchet's still there next year. But if things don't turn around, I don't.
I don't put this.
I wouldn't put it on him.
I don't put it on Tocchet.
I don't put it on him, but I just think that it's I don't know. What do you do?
You finish up the year and you have a serious conversation with players.
Anyway, that's the playoff update. Elsewhere, the Caps, the Washington Capitals, are the first team to 100 points and the first team to clinch a playoff spot. And Winnipeg also shortly followed suit. They are at 100 points and they are clinched into a playoff spot. I don't think anyone else has reached 100 yet. Dallas has now as well. And Dallas has also clinched a playoff spot since then. Vegas is 2 points away from 100. So, but right now it's Winnipeg, Dallas, and Washington are the clinched playoff teams. Which it's looking like more teams are going to start clinching this week. I think Toronto can clinch it with a certain situation tonight. They play in Anaheim tonight. So that's how it's looking. Let's get to the OV count. The Great Chase.
Where's he at?
Let's find it here. I believe he's at 889. If my phone would fucking work. He is at 889. So what's that? 6 more to pass it.
He's got lots of games to do it.
And Washington has 10 games remaining.
Okay, so he needs...
So 6 and 10, you need over half a goal. 50. So it's going to come to the wire, I think. And they've clinched the playoff spot. They're going to be pretty close to clinching the division here pretty soon.
Yeah.
Not going to be a lot to play for. It's an older guy. We'll see. What's the schedule looking like?
But he's going to get minutes.
They got Buffalo today.
He could get it today, then.
I don't know if I'm going to go that far. Then they're in Boston, in Carolina, against Chicago, in Long Island, against Carolina, in Columbus, against Columbus, in Long Island, in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
The schedule's not tough.
No.
You got a couple against Carolina.
But Chicago, Columbus.
Columbus and the Islanders are kind of fringe playoff teams. Buffalo's bad. Boston's not great. Pittsburgh's not great. Chicago's bad.
Goals they're letting in.
Yeah. So let's ask the question.
He gets it this
season. He's doing it this season? I'm going to stick to my guns. He ties it.
Okay.
I think he did mention that he will probably retire after. He is going to at least play next season, no matter what happens, I think. And then next season, he's going to kind of see from there.
Yeah.
He'll be 40 by then, so. That's the OV chase. Okay, interesting NHL news, like non-on-ice stuff. There's this billionaire out there, Dan Friedkin. I don't know. I think that's what we pronounce his name. He's looking to have an NHL expansion team. It would probably be in Houston. I didn't think they would expand so quickly after Vegas and Seattle. I thought they'd maybe stick to 32 for a bit. It seems likely that it would be because you're gonna want an even number of teams, so you'll probably get to 34.
Yeah.
and it seems like Houston and Atlanta are the most likely.
Don't do
I
Atlanta.
don't know why Atlanta keeps getting pushed out,
Doesn't work, guys.
but they seem to be the team that everyone tosses out. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. Now the expansion fee is hefty.
I don't doubt it.
I believe Vegas was 500,000
Okay.
or not 500,000,000.
500 million.
Yeah. And Seattle was maybe 750,000,000.
Don't tell me it's $1 billion.
Oh, it's more than that. They're saying like 1.5 to 2 billion
Stop.
on an expansion fee. Now Tampa just sold for like 1.4, I think it was.
Okay, but you don't. But that's an established market.
Yes,
This
but the
seems
expansion they could include like an arena, stuff like that.
okay. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I don't know what goes into it. I just know that the fee they're talking
Is there enough
1.5 to
interest in
2 billion.
hockey in Texas for that?
Well, you got Dallas,
You got
and
Dallas.
Houston is one of the biggest cities in the U.S.
But do people from Houston already
I don't,
basically
I
are they
don't know. I
cannibalizing
don't
their
know.
own market?
I don't know. Maybe an arena wouldn't be an issue. Maybe they just play where the Rockets play.
Yeah,
That could be they have it already
easy.
and just make it that way. Or I don't. Maybe they want to build an arena. I don't know. I don't know what their plan is. That's just what's been
Don't do
what's
Atlanta.
what's been
Stop
put out
with
there.
Atlanta.
It would be in the same mold of like Vegas and Seattle. It would be Vegas would come in, and then you'd have a couple of years of an odd number of teams, and then Seattle would come in. I think it would be Houston first, and then you would see
Okay.
in a couple of years. I don't think Atlanta's set in stone, but they seem to be the next favorite after
Is the league
Houston.
getting too big?
It's a lot of teams to me.
It seems like a lot of
It
teams.
seems like a lot of teams to
You
me.
already have an issue where it's like it's tough to move players
Yeah,
and actually get like substantial
but you're
fees.
creating more jobs.
Fine, fine.
I'm just. I gotta play devil's advocate, all right?
Okay.
I think it could work in Houston because Houston's a large city,
Yeah,
and like Dallas, it has
and people
never had
love
an
to see
issue.
stuff there too.
Yeah, so I don't think it would be an issue. Um, I'm not saying we're going to take over football or take over baseball in Texas, and that's not what I'm saying.
You
But
don't need to do that. You
it's
can just
just yeah,
butts and seats.
enough people go to Dallas games.
Yeah.
As long as they're semi-successful, people are going to go.
Okay.
But just the expansion fee is crazy.
1.5 to 2 billion.
1.5 to 2 billion.
He's got that cash. Some oil baron.
This fucking Friedkin guy.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm gonna look him up. See what he does.
Okay.
Dan Friedkin. Now listen, folks. Jack started this podcast with 4 drinks. He's now down to 1.
I just got my coffee left. I had my green juice. I had my grapefruit juice.
What an absolute freak.
Water.
Dan Friedkin's net worth is 7.6 billion US dollars. He's the owner and CEO of the Friedkin Group. Not sure what they do. It was founded by his father. How rich is the and they're based in Houston, so that would track. Their revenue was around 13 billion.
Okay.
So he's got the money. And just like a bunch of companies are under the Friedkin Group umbrella,
Okay.
and he's the CEO. Some golf clubs in there, resorts, stuff like that. So he's a billionaire, tossing money at it. And more expansion
Fine.
is interesting. Okay. Outside of the NHL, first we're going to go to it was the Canadian University Hockey Playoffs last week.
Is there
So this is the Canadian University quarterfinal between TMU and Mount Royal.
Okay.
This game started at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. There was a Zamboni malfunction
Stop.
during the first intermission that caused and extended the intermission a little while, and the game went 5 overtimes. The game started at 1 in the afternoon and ended at 7:48 p.m.
Those
Almost 7 hours.
like that's those fans, man. I would be like, somebody finish this.
So I've actually been. I went to Chicago. I think I was a teenager. We went to a Cubs game, a baseball game. The game was supposed to start at 1, but there was a rain delay. So we were there from like 1 till about around that. And the game went like 11 innings too.
That's too much. That's too much.
So what a crazy ending. 5 overtimes, Zamboni malfunction, but just like what a great story to tell one day. I was at that game.
What a nightmare.
It is the longest game in Canadian university hockey history.
Yeah, I know shit.
After that, we got the NCAA women's tournament has finished. Congrats to the Wisconsin Badgers, national champions. They were playing the Ohio State in the national championship game.
Nice.
Kirsten Sims scores on a penalty shot to tie it in the final minute. Go watch it. It's a great goal.
Nuts.
It's a crazy goal. And then she goes on to score the overtime winner.
Did she really?
Yeah, so she scored the shootout, the penalty shot goal to tie it, and then the OT winner to win the national championship. And I'm happy they won because fuck the Buckeyes. Buck the fuck eyes. And speaking of NCAA, you have the men's NCAA hockey tournament has just started this week, and the CHL playoffs have also started this week.
Yes.
Locally, Windsor won game 1. I know for sure. I'm not sure if they won game 2 or not. I believe they played last night. Looking at the NCAA side of things, a couple big upsets here. Michigan State was the second-ranked team in the country, so they were a number 1 seed. They lost to Cornell in the first round, 4-3, big upset there. And then Maine was also number 1 seed. Penn State beat them 5-1. And then since then, you have BU. BU beat Cornell in overtime. They're in the Frozen Four. Western Michigan beats UMass 2-1, and Western Michigan is in their first ever Frozen Four. And then you have UConn against Penn State and Denver against Boston College today. And the 2 winners of those will be in the Frozen Four. BCBU loaded as per usual. Lane Hudson's little brother plays for BU.
Oh, does he really?
I think both of actually. I think he has 2 little brothers that play for BU. And then Ryan Leonard goes to, is it BU or BC? Haggins plays for BC. Leonard plays for BC. Gabe Perreault plays for BC. So some big names here that will be coming through in the NHL in the next couple of years in this tournament. So look out for that. The 2 quarterfinals are today, and then the Frozen Four will be next weekend in St. Louis. And then the CHL, and it's 3 leagues. There's tons of time before we get to that. But just opening up. Quick shout out. I mentioned the Spits. You want to know who plays for the Spits?
Who plays for the Spits?
The Washington Capitals' Alexei Protas, his little brother, is the second leading scorer in the OHL. And he's a big boy too. So go Spits.
See him in the leagues.
And I'm sure Jack wants the Kitchener Rangers to win.
Of course.
Actually, if you look at the OHL standings, so Windsor finishes second in the East and Kitchener finished third. But Kitchener actually had more points, but Windsor gets the higher seed because they won their division. So Kitchener was in the other division. So there you go. Before we get to that, RIP to George Foreman. All-time heavyweight and grill maker.
He's dead?
He died, yeah.
R.I.P. to a good one.
RIP.
R.I.P. to a good one.
Yeah. All right. Your favorite time.
We gotta do it quick because I gotta pick someone up at 3. Who is Calder, the namesake of the Rookie of the Year trophy?
Like, what is it asking? His first name?
Who is Calder? It's basically like position. Or like, who is he? I don't know. It's kind of a basic.
Can you look at the answer and like, what am I?
Yeah, position.
Like, what does it represent?
Who is Calder? Like, who was Calder? Who's the Calder trophy named after? And like, what did they do? Like, why are they?
Okay, the Calder Trophy is for Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
Is that what it's asking?
No, that's in the name.
Okay.
Who is Calder, the namesake of the Rookie of the Year trophy?
Like his first name?
No, position. It's basically like
Position.
who is he in relation to hockey?
Oh. I don't really know how to answer this question.
Your options are first NHL president, owner of the Calder Building Supply, sponsor of the trophy, a former forward with the New York Americans, or D, a contest winner.
What was the last one?
A contest winner.
No. Okay, I think it's the American New York Americans forward. I'll go with.
He was the first NHL president.
He was okay. Interesting.
Fair enough. Which NHL award is given to the most gentlemanly player? Have we talked about this before? Oh no, this is
The Jennings is for the goalie thing. It's not that. Ted Lindsay is the players MVP. What is it? Gentlemanly player is Lady Bing, right?
you are correct.
Okay, yeah, that's what
200 points.
There you go.
Which NHL team began the regular season with 5 consecutive shutouts?
Oh wow. Can you give me a year?
30-31.
Jeez.
So a small sample.
The Montreal Canadiens.
Toronto Maple
Oh
Leafs.
wow. Okay.
All right, 400 points. Who is the first? Oh, this is the honors. This is the honors category.
Yeah, I can tell by the questions. Yeah.
Who is the first to win the Conn Smythe Trophy for Stanley Cup playoff MVP on a team that did not win the Stanley
The
Cup?
first. Ooh.
1966.
So we had a question similar that was asking who were the guys that have won it.
Yeah.
Which I did okay on.
Mhm.
There was 6, I think, and I got like 3 or 4. The first one, can I get a year?
66.
66. So the Habs won the cup.
First to win the Conn Smythe Trophy on a team that did not win the Stanley Cup.
So I think it was a goalie. 1966. So Montreal won. I don't know for sure who they played against. Can I get a team?
I can look it up.
If it's still original 6, I don't think it was Toronto. Toronto beat Montreal the year before or the year after, and that was the last time the Leafs won. So 67. So 66. I don't think the Leafs were in the final. Actually, I think the Leafs were the worst team in the league in 66. Detroit. I think this was one of the ones I had a hard time with.
I don't recognize the name.
Yeah, maybe give me the options.
So it's A, Roger Crozier, B, Glenn Hall, C, Ron Hextall, D, Reggie Leach.
Okay, well, it's not Hextall or Leach. It was Crozier and who?
Hextall.
No.
Oh,
before that.
Glenn Hall.
Glenn Hall and Crozier. It's got to be Crozier.
You're right.
Yeah.
All right, 500 points. Who is the only player to win the Stanley Cup with 2 different Quebec teams?
Quebec teams.
Oh, this is fun. Okay. You want yours?
Okay, well, we have to be going back to like the 30s then.
This is the Montreal Maroons in 35.
Yeah.
And then the Canadiens in 44 or 46.
Yeah, because the Nordiques never won, so it had to be way back in the day.
I just discovered there was a Montreal Maroons.
You didn't know that?
No.
This is pre-original 6. They actually lost teams in the 40s. All the, World War and stuff like that. I think this is wrong.
Okay.
I got 2 guesses. I think my first guess, I think he played way earlier than this, but I'm going to say it. I'm going to say Howie Morenz.
It was not Howie Morenz.
Okay. My next guess, I'm going to go Toe Blake.
Bingo.
There you go.
Toe Blake.
Yeah.
The Montreal Maroons?
Yeah. The Montreal Maroons.
You did well.
Not bad.
I mean, I don't like that category.
It's not great, yeah. It's not great. It would be better if it would be like more like who won it this year or something like that. None of this like what did Calder do? I don't know. I don't know who James Calder is.
Who's Calder?
Yeah, like come on now.
Anything else?
Oh, I think that's it. We should be back on more of a regular basis, I'm assuming. Jack's a pretty busy guy,
Yeah, I'm in and out weekends. We're away next weekend.
but well, I'm away next weekend
Are
too,
you
so
too?
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, probably maybe we could do Friday night.
Yeah, we can do Friday
You're
night.
not leaving.
No.
You're leaving
Oh,
Saturday.
no, we're leaving Thursday, so we couldn't even do that
Oh, okay. Um, well, what time are you leaving Thursday?
after
Probably
work.
after work. Yeah, yeah.
So we got
So
Anaheim
maybe
tonight.
yeah, Anaheim tonight, and then with Florida Wednesday, and then I think Saturday is. It doesn't matter anyway. So it's not too busy. Maybe we go into like Tuesday or something the following week,
Yeah.
something
There's
like
not
that.
that many games
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah. You're home the next weekend, all right?
I believe so.
They're going to their spa thing,
Yes.
so
I mean,
we'll both be home.
okay.
So we'll do that weekend for sure. Then you're gone for Easter, I believe,
Potentially.
potentially.
Gray area.
Okay,
Gray area.
gray
It
area.
was less gray, now it's more
Yeah.
gray.
Okay, but that is playoffs open that weekend, so we have to do a show before that.
Okay.
We have to do a playoff preview show.
Playoff
Full
prediction.
playoff preview. Maybe we get the locksmith in. Oh, you know what I do want to mention? Fantasy hockey playoffs. We're in the semifinals. Jack and I could possibly face each other in the final, and I'm actually against the locksmith in the semifinal.
I'm down by a point right
We're
now.
coming down to the wire.
I think
Jack losing record gets the last spot in the playoffs and is now possibly in the final.
Dvorak is screwing me. He's a -2 right now.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens.
We'll see.
It could be a next week when you see us, or if we don't even, you might not see us till the week after.
Could be very bitter.
It could be bitter on one side, although someone maybe
Maybe
won't make
both.
it.
Who knows?
Maybe we both be bitter. Who knows?
All right, go fuck
Yeah.
yourself.